mortal rise through 100 reincarnations. Greetings, fellow multiversal adventurers. It's an honor to have you back in this saga that has us all hooked. Official channel statement: this story is 100% epic fiction, so please don't attempt real magic. The results aren't guaranteed and insurance won't cover it. The rights to this masterpiece belong entirely to its brilliant original author. We are just a barge sharing it with you. Do you want to keep being part of this amazing community? Join our ninja army of subscribers on YouTube and give this content a like. And for true fans, our Patreon has exclusive ninjutsu waiting for you. Chapter 126, 30 years. A year later, at Xianzhou Mountain, in the Zhao family's secret residence, Zhao Sheng sat cross-legged beneath a spiritual peach tree, his gaze scattering as he gazed at the shifting clouds and mists surrounding the illusionary formation, his mind racing. 4 months had passed since he returned to the secret residence after resolving the issue at the Golden Talisman Pavilion, and 3 months had passed since Zhao Xuanjing had begun his foundation-building retreat. Even after so long, Zhao Xuanjing still hadn't broken through, a fact that filled Zhao Sheng with anxiety. However, his worries weren't limited to this one. After watching the shifting clouds for a while, Zhao Sheng sighed, his mind shifting as he summoned his personal data panel. Name: Zhao Chong, Zhao Sheng. Lifespan: 83/196. Realm: Foundation Establishment. Level 3. Occupation: 2nd rank Talisman Master. Constitution: 4. Spiritual Roots, Yellow level. Primary Self-Healing, Mortal level. Talents: Spiritual Smell, Yellow level. Bullet Time, Yellow level. Hand of Rock, Mortal level. Skills: Cultivation Technique, Zuanin Heavy Water Art, Minor Success. Blood Refining Body Art, Great Success. Blood Melting Spirit Refining Art, Proficient. Talisman Stacking Technique, Mastery, 26 stacks. Spells: God-Slaying Sword, Minor Success. Thousand Silk Sword Rain, Great Success. Water Dragon Chant, Great Success. Water Mine Technique, Great Success. Icefall, Minor Success. Talisman Making, Blood Refining Talisman, Perfection. Thousand Force Talisman, Great Success. Flowing Cloud Sword Talisman, Mastery. Soul Concentrating Talisman, Great Success. Sweet Rain Talisman, Great Success. Phantom Escape Talisman, Great Success. Zhao Sheng paid no attention to his breakthrough to the 3rd level of Foundation Establishment, instead focusing on the number 196. Just 6 months ago, it had been 197, yet now it had quietly dropped to 196. 2 days ago, Zhao Sheng was horrified to discover his lifespan had suddenly decreased by a year. Initially, he couldn't fathom the cause. But that same day, as he habitually practiced his cultivation techniques to condense his blood in essence, Zhao Sheng suddenly realized something. There was something wrong with the blood refining and body tempering technique. More specifically, the Blood Soul Sutra held a profound hidden danger. While cultivators who practiced this technique experienced rapid advancements, the price was a significant loss of lifespan. Trading lifespan for increased cultivation. The Blood Soul Sutra was a classic example of a demonic technique. The crucial issue, the loss of lifespan, was so veiled. Had Zhao Sheng not possessed the precious 100 Worlds book, he might have remained unaware of this hidden danger until his death. If you were still in the dark, the others were completely in the dark. This move by the Guiyun Patriarch was truly insidious, truly ruthless. Thinking of the Guiyun sect's 60 to 70,000 disciples, and the widespread dissemination of the blood refining and body tempering art not only in Dongshan City but even across the entire world of immortal cultivators in Central Continent, Zhao Sheng was horrified. Solan blood or immortal, this is called the mysterious blood. The source of the mysterious blood is called the essence, ki, and spirit, which endures eternally and is inexhaustible, beneath the spiritual peach tree. Zhao Sheng repeatedly recited the general outline of the Blood Soul Sutra, his mind awash with turmoil. He still couldn't fathom the ultimate purpose behind the Guiyun Patriarch's widespread dissemination of the Blood Soul Sutra. He couldn't possibly be doing this to rapidly enhance the Guiyun sect's overall strength. If that were his sole motivation, he wouldn't have allowed the blood refining and body tempering art to spread so freely. The world is bustling with activity, all for profit. The world is bustling with activity, all for profit, Zhao Sheng muttered to himself. So, what profit is Guiyun Patriarch doing this for? And what profit are the 10 great sects pursuing? Zhao Sheng would not underestimate anyone. He did not believe the 10 great sects were unaware of Gyan Patriarch's peculiarities, nor did he believe the nascent soul patriarchs were incapable of discovering the mysteries of the Blood-Soul Sutra. Yet, the strange thing was their complete indifference, their utter inaction. Zhao Sheng couldn't comprehend the situation. Perhaps he would never learn the hidden truth in this lifetime. His status was too low, far removed from the highest echelons of the central continent's immortal cultivation world. 3 days later, beneath the spiritual peach tree, Zhao Sheng sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. His face was a crimson, his blood surging through his body like waves, a faint roar echoing through his body. Boom, boom, boom. His heart contracted and expanded violently, blood swirling in his chambers. A drop of essence gradually formed beneath the vortex and quickly condensed. Zhao Sheng, observing the birth of this drop of blood essence in a state of inner vision, felt neither sadness nor joy. With a thought, the drop of blood essence suddenly exploded into a cloud of blood mist, then instantly transformed into a streak of bloody light. Ignoring the obstruction of his physical body, the bloody light instantly rushed into Zhao Sheng's purple palace, piercing into his soul sea and dissolving into nothingness. The next moment, Zhao Sheng felt his spiritual awareness naturally grow slightly, its range expanding an inch. After a moment, the blush on Zhao Sheng's face faded, and he opened his eyes, a flicker of satisfaction in them. So what if practicing the Blood-Soul Sutra would cost him his lifespan? Zhao Sheng had figured it out by now. As long as his cultivation could rapidly improve, he could simply ignore this hidden danger. Zhao Sheng stood up from the ground. At that moment, a look of surprise suddenly crossed his face, and in a flash, he appeared at the cave entrance. Boom! As the stone walls of the cave crashed back to the ground, Zhao Xuanjing strode out. "Seventh uncle, I did it." Zhao Sheng was overjoyed at Zhao Xuanjing's rejuvenated appearance. "Great! Xuanjing, you're worthy of being my Zhao family's killing son. You really didn't disappoint me." This time, Zhao Xuanjing wasn't as humble as before, but accepted Zhao Sheng's praise with complete confidence. Having reached the foundation establishment stage at the age of less than 50, Zhao Xuanjing knew he had a chance to reach the golden core stage. He truly deserved the title of the Zhao family's killing son. 2 months later, Zhao Xuanjing bid farewell to Zhao Sheng and left the Zhao family's secret residence. According to his plan, he would first return to Taiwu Mountain and then begin his journey. This was a journey of training, the duration of which was unknown, perhaps years, perhaps decades. He would return to the Zhao family's secret residence only when he felt he had gained enough experience. While Zhao Xuanjing traveled the world to sharpen his Taoist heart, Zhao Sheng did not return to Gyan sect, but chose to seclude himself in Dongshan City. Time flew by, and as the years passed, Zhao Sheng's cultivation steadily improved, from the 4th level of foundation establishment to the 5th. By the time Zhao Sheng successfully broke through to the 6th level, a full 30 years had passed. During these 30 years, Zhao Sheng diligently cultivated while observing the development of the Gyan sect from a distance. However, contrary to his expectations, the profound hidden dangers of the Blood-Soul Sutra remained unnoticed. Perhaps someone had discovered them, but suppressed them by the Gyan Patriarch or an unknown force. Over the past 30 years, the Gyan sect has flourished, with over 100,000 key refining disciples within the sect, and foundation establishment cultivators proliferating like mushrooms after rain, even adding 3 golden core true immortals. Zhao Sheng's low profile led to his status in the Gyan sect declining. By the time foundation establishment cultivators numbered over 100, he had become so inconspicuous that he was practically ignored. Of course, this was a situation Zhao Sheng very much welcomed. Chapter 127 Anemia. Name, Zhao Chong, Zhao Sheng, Lifespan 114/167 Realm, Foundation Establishment Level 6 Occupation, 2nd Rank Talisman Master Constitution, 4 Spiritual Roots, Yellow Rank, Elementary Self-Healing, Mortal Rank, Talents, Spiritual Smell, Yellow Rank, Bullet Time, Yellow Rank, Hand of Rock, Mortal Rank, Skills, Cultivation Technique, Zuanin Heavy Water Art, Great Mastery, Blood-Soul Sutra, Blood Melting Chapter, Great Mastery, Talisman Stacking Technique, Great Mastery, 33 Stacks, Spells, God-Slaying Sword, Great Mastery, Light Splitting Sword, Great Mastery, Blood Escape Technique, Great Mastery, 9 Dragons Chant, Minor Mastery, Mysterious Spirit Puppet, Minor Mastery, Water Mine Technique, Great Mastery, Icefall, Mastery. Talisman Crafting, Blood Refining Talisman, Perfection, Blood Melting Talisman, Great Mastery, Blood Escape Talisman, Great Mastery, Wanjin Talisman, Great Mastery, Flowing Cloud Sword Talisman, Mastery, Soul Concentrating Talisman, Great Mastery, Sweet Rain Talisman, Great Mastery, Phantom Escape Talisman, Great Mastery. Zhao Sheng pondered the data on his dashboard, remaining silent. Despite exercising extreme restraint over the years, he had still consumed 29 years of his lifespan in pursuit of his cultivation. Putting away his personal dashboard, Zhao Sheng stood up and paced back and forth in his quiet room, reflecting on the recent situation within Gyuan sect. His thoughts shifted, and he suddenly realized that Gyuan sect had become a powder keg on the verge of exploding. Wherever there are people, there are conflicts of interest. In the past, due to its rapid growth and the sheer size of the pie, the internal conflicts within Gyuan sect had been temporarily suppressed. However, in recent years, due to its intrusion on the interests of numerous factions, Gyuan sect has faced resistance from all surrounding forces, and its expansion has slowed dramatically. As a result, the previously suppressed conflicts within the sect have begun to rapidly intensify. While the world only sees the prosperous Gyuan sect, unaware of the turbulent undercurrents within. Now, this powder keg is on the verge of exploding, lacking only a fuse. After years of observation, Zhao Sheng believes that this fuse is, bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, there was a violent knock on the door to the quiet room, followed by a frantic cry, "Master, Master! Please come out." Zhao Sheng frowned, and suddenly appeared at the doorway. He opened the door and saw a beautiful middle-aged woman standing there, her face stained with tears. "Master, my grandfather is sobbing," Zhao Sheng said in a deep voice. "Linger, please speak slowly." "What happened to your grandfather?" Wei Ling said with a look of panic. "My grandfather suddenly fainted this morning and is dying now. Where's your grandfather?" "Take him to see him." Wei Ling quickly wiped away her tears and led Zhao Sheng to Lingayan courtyard. Soon, the two arrived at the courtyard's backyard. It was filled with red-robed key refining disciples. Their expressions were filled with fear, and they gathered in front of the main room in the north of the courtyard, but no one dared to step inside. Seeing Zhao Sheng's arrival, they all bowed in greeting. Zhao Sheng ignored the formalities and went straight into the inner room. Upon seeing Wei Yaoquan lying in bed again, Zhao Sheng's expression changed. He had been so healthy just a few days ago. Now emaciated figure. Not only had his hair, beard, and teeth completely fallen out, but his exposed skin was wrinkled like chicken skin and covered in black spots. A stench of corpse emanated from his body. Blood depletion. Zhao Sheng's heart sank, knowing Wei Yaoquan's time had come, and no medicine could cure him. Blood depletion is a terminal illness that has only recently emerged. It closely resembles the 5 degenerations of the celestial being, guaranteeing certain death. Therefore, cultivators fear it with dread. The Gyuan sect is particularly hard hit by blood depletion. In recent years, as many as 11 Foundation establishment cultivators have succumbed to this terminal illness. The number of key refining disciples is even higher. Blood depletion is undoubtedly the most obvious sign that the Gyuan sect has become a powder keg. Based on his own experience, Zhao Sheng concluded that those who succumb to blood depletion must have exhausted their lifespan. The Blood Soul Sutra's techniques are so diabolical they were usually undetectable. Only just before death do the hidden dangers of the techniques suddenly unleash themselves. The world of immortal cultivation is full of intelligent individuals, and someone must have discovered the connection between the Blood Soul Sutra and blood atrophy. Although Zhao Sheng didn't know when this secret would be revealed, he knew that the day it became public knowledge, the Gyuan sect would become a target of public criticism. Zhao Sheng approached the bedside, and Wei Ling panicked and asked, "Master, is Grandpa still alive?" Zhao Sheng probed Wei Yaoquan's entire body with his spiritual sense, revealing that his entire blood supply had dried up, his internal organs were rapidly rotting, and his bones were gradually dissolving. Zhao Sheng shook his head and said regretfully, "Your grandfather has blood atrophy. There's no hope." Upon hearing the word blood atrophy, Wei Ling fainted from shock. Seeing this, Zhao Sheng's eyes flashed, and he waved his hand, unleashing a stream of spiritual energy that shot into Wei Ling's forehead, temporarily blocking his 5 senses. Then, with a flick of his sleeve, a barrier talisman flew out, instantly dissolving into ash. In a flash, an invisible barrier rose from the room, temporarily blocking out the outside world. After this, Zhao Sheng stepped forward, his spiritual sense sweeping over Wei Yaoquan's body inch by inch, searching for any signs of abnormality. In previous years, he had examined the bodies of several key refining disciples who had died of blood atrophy, but found nothing unusual. The Gyun sect always promptly discovered and seized the bodies of Foundation establishment cultivators who had died of blood atrophy, so he had never had the chance to investigate. Now, his chance had finally arrived. Zhao Sheng scanned Wei Yaoquan's body from head to toe 3 times with his spiritual sense. He felt strange. Wei Yaoquan's body seemed no different from those of the key refining disciples. But there was one thing. Zhao Sheng bent down, placed his face close to Wei Yaoquan's body, and sniffed carefully. Suddenly, a smile lit up his face. He could smell a strange bloody odor emanating from all 7 of Wei Yaoquan's orifices. This scent, strikingly similar to that of a corpse, imperceptible to ordinary humans, was perceptible to his nose. Zhao Sheng reached out and pressed Wei Yaoquan's head, allowing streams of pure spiritual energy to seep into his 7 orifices. Soon, Zhao Sheng made a profound discovery. Deep within Wei Yaoquan's purple mansion, a blood elixir, round as a pearl, and roughly an inch in size, appeared. The elixir seemed both real and illusory, with an expressionless, lifeless face occasionally appearing on its surface. It was a very familiar face. Who else could it be but Wei Yaoquan? Zhao Sheng's heart trembled as he witnessed this scene. Suddenly, he recalled a strange incident he had experienced decades earlier on Xiansu Mountain. The strange blood stain, the strange face on the stone tablet, and the strange blood elixir that had given birth to Wei Yaoquan's face. What was the connection between these 3? Just as Zhao Sheng's heart was pounding, the door was suddenly kicked open. A flash of blood flew in, instantly shattering the barrier. Zhao Sheng spun around and looked outside. Just then, 2 hooded figures in black robes entered. Zhao Sheng's face changed when he saw the 2 figures. He thought to himself, how quick they are. He didn't recognize the 2 black-robed men, but he was very familiar with their identities. They were the corpse collectors of the Gyun sect, responsible for collecting the bodies of Foundation establishment cultivators and bringing them back to the Gyun sect for burial. Chapter 128, It's Hard to Accept. Inside the room, Zhao Sheng touched Wei Ling's forehead with his toe and silently sent a stream of spiritual energy into him. The next second, Wei Ling groaned, slowly awakened, and sat up. Zhao Sheng stood in front of the bed, his face calm as he looked at the 2 disciples collecting the body. Seeing this, the 2 black-robed men paused, and one of them suddenly spoke in a hoarse voice, "Uncle Master, Dean Wei has passed away. We have been ordered to escort Dean Wei's body back to the mountain for burial. Brother Wei has only passed away moments ago, and you 2 are here already? Do you have the ability to predict the future?" Zhao Sheng demanded bluntly. He knew the question was a bit taboo, but the opportunity was rare, and he felt it would be a waste if he didn't take it to test his wits. The 2 black-robed men were silent for a moment before one of them replied, "Uncle Master, we are only following orders. We know nothing else, Grandpa." Woo-woo. Just then, Wei Ling suddenly threw herself against the bed, crying and shouting loudly. Then, a commotion erupted outside the room, accompanied by faint cries. Apparently, those outside had already learned that Elder Dean Wei was dead. Zhao Sheng seized the opportunity to speak. Dean Wei presided over Lingayan Academy for decades, and was highly respected by the disciples. His unfortunate passing today has deeply saddened all of us. Could you please give him a few days? After 7 days of mourning and commemoration, we can bring his body back to Moa Mountain for burial. 7 days would be ample time for him to thoroughly study the strange blood pill. No. Sect rules require that those who die outside be brought back for burial as soon as possible. Uncle Master, please don't make this difficult for us. The black-robed corpse-collecting disciple immediately rejected Zhao Sheng's proposal with an unwavering firmness. Zhao Sheng pondered for a moment, forming a series of assumptions. Well, in that case. Linger, please get out of the way, Master. I won't. They're trying to take my grandfather's body before it's even cold. They're not human. Wei Ling lay sprawled on the bed, her hands tightly gripping Wei Yaoquan's right, crying with a determined expression. Excuse me. After saying that, the 2 men rubbed their bodies and stepped forward. 7 days later, when Lingayan Academy welcomed a new dean, Zhao Sheng returned to Gyun sect in a very low-key manner. 30 years had passed, and the once barren Moya Mountain was now filled with the atmosphere of a fairyland. On the mountaintop, the Gyun Hall was filled with spiritual energy and brilliant light. Large patches of colorful clouds surrounded the mountain. In the square, cranes and other spiritual birds flew up and down, singing loudly. As night fell, on the cliffs above and below Moya Mountain, colorful rays of light emanated from caves, dead trees, cliffs and other hidden places. Beneath the light were the caves of cultivators. At the foot of Moya Mountain, countless palaces and pavilions stood like a mountain forest, stretching for dozens of miles. Looking down from the sky, the ground was ablaze with lights, almost like a city that never sleeps. Giyan sect was founded less than 60 years ago, but it was still prosperous and its mountain gateways magnificent. Not only would outsiders find it incredulous, even Zhao Sheng, who had just returned, found it baffling. It was late at night. Yet the merit hall was still bustling with activity. Giyan sect disciples bustled in and out, seemingly even busier than during the day. Zhao Sheng used the magical talisman to transform his appearance and blend into the crowd. An hour later, Zhao Sheng left the merit hall with remarkable unobtrusiveness. His departure was followed by an uproar. The golden crow burning heaven art has been exchanged for, that's right, a full 800,000 merit points. Do you know which mastermind in the sect it was? No. But it must be a Foundation establishment cultivator. That makes sense. News of the golden crow burning heaven art's expropriation spread rapidly among Giyan sect disciples, quickly spreading throughout the entire sect. Theories abounded as to who had made the exchange. The key refining disciples might not know, but the Foundation establishment cultivators within Giyan sect had several suspects, Zhao Sheng among them. So, at a gathering half a month later, Taoist Feng Yu teased Zhao Sheng tentatively, "Junior brother Zhao, you haven't been back to the mountain for decades. I didn't expect you to cause such a big commotion upon your return." After not seeing him for so many years, Taoist Feng Yu had aged beyond recognition, his aura faintly reeking of death. Facing a dying man, Zhao Sheng was extremely cautious, shaking his head and laughing. "Brother, you're joking. Even if you chopped me up and sold me, I still couldn't exchange me for the golden crow burning heaven art. Don't hide it. Who else could it be but you? We joined the sect together. Don't you trust me?" Despite Taoist Feng Yu's repeated questioning, Zhao Sheng still denied it. Taoist Feng Yu was about to ask again when Zhao Sheng's face suddenly darkened with sorrow. He sighed. "Brother, did you know that Brother Wei from Lingayan Academy has passed away?" Taoist Feng Yu was shocked and asked, "What did you say? Wei Yaoquan is it? When did he die? How did he die?" "He only just turned 200, 7 days ago, from blood atrophy." Taoist Feng Yu's body trembled at the words, a look of fear and horror suddenly crossing his face. As Zhao Sheng finished speaking, the gathering place fell into a momentary silence. Every Foundation establishment cultivator present looked uneasy. Some, like Taoist Feng Yu, showed fear. Undoubtedly, blood atrophy had become a taboo within Giyan sect. Only Zhao Sheng could bring himself to speak so openly. Terrified, Taoist Feng Yu no longer had the heart to inquire about the golden crow burning heaven art. He wanted to leave, but Zhao Sheng hadn't yet achieved his purpose for attending the gathering, so how could he let him go? "Wait a minute, senior brother, I have something else to ask you." Taoist Feng Yu frowned. "Junior brother, what do you want to ask?" "I heard that more than 10 years ago, senior brother went to Cheyenne territory to open a branch. Is that true?" Zhao Sheng asked seriously. After hearing this, Taoist Feng Yu frowned even more and his mood became even worse. This incident was a shame for him. 16 years ago, in order to earn merit, he excitedly went to Cheyenne territory to make achievements. However, he was ostracized by the local forces and finally could not stand his ground. He retreated to Moya Mountain in a very embarrassed manner. "Well, it is probably true," Taoist Feng Yu said perfunctorily. Zhao Sheng's eyes lit up, and he said sincerely, "Brother, please forgive me. I share the same thought. However, I know very little about the customs and practices of the Cheyenne territory. I hope you will be so kind as to enlighten me." Taoist Feng Yu's eyes flickered, and he suddenly said, "Since you wish to ask, I will tell you everything I know." However, he trailed off, looking intently at Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng understood what he meant, and understood. "As long as you tell me the truth, I have a few small gadgets you don't need. I'll give them to you to enjoy." Taoist Feng Yu shook his head and said solemnly, "Not enough. Although I failed, I still have a group of available personnel in the Cheyenne territory. If you wish to take over, feel free to take them, but this little bit is far from enough." Zhao Sheng was delighted. He had approached Taoist Feng Yu precisely for the personnel he mentioned. So, he immediately and decisively agreed. Since this wasn't the right place for a discussion, the two men immediately left. Finding a private spot, they sat down and began a back-and-forth negotiation. After considerable haggling, Zhao Sheng spent a considerable amount of merit to finally satisfy Taoist Fengyu's demands. Taoist Fengyu then enthusiastically explained the customs and practices of the Xianhuang territory to Zhao Sheng. This lecture lasted a full day and night. Only when Taoist Fengyu's mind was completely drained did Zhao Sheng, satisfied, let him go. Half a month later, Zhao Sheng approached sect leader Jin Chenzi and proposed opening a branch in the Xianhuang territory. Jin Chenzi greatly appreciated Zhao Sheng's willingness to serve the sect and readily agreed. In a sense, the Guiyun sect welcomes Foundation establishment disciples to establish branches in various realms of Central Continent. Branches can be opened freely, but there's one caveat: annual performance must meet certain targets. These performance targets are essence blood pearls. Based on the number of disciples, the sect requires each branch to contribute a certain number of essence blood pearls. If performance targets are met, the dean receives a substantial amount of merit. If targets are exceeded, the dean receives not only a half share of the excess, but also discounts on items redeemed at the merit hall. Zhao Sheng's connections within the Guiyun sect are limited, and he doesn't even have many direct disciples. However, the sect's disciples are numerous, competition is fierce, and many are ambitious. As a result, after Zhao Sheng spread the word, more than a dozen key refining great perfectionists approached him that very day, volunteering to follow him on his quest to achieve great success. Zhao Sheng hadn't intended to do so, but seeing these enthusiastic individuals bringing their own food, he readily accepted. Quality is more important than quantity. After a series of interviews, Zhao Sheng accepted only 4 of them, sending the others on their way with a few essence and blood talismans. Just as Zhao Sheng was concentrating on preparing for the Xianhuang territory, he was suddenly interrupted by bad news. That afternoon, Zhao Sheng was concentrating on refining a batch of blood refining talismans. Crack! A jade pendant hanging from his waist suddenly shattered into 2 pieces and fell to the ground. Zhao Sheng's face suddenly changed color. He dropped the talisman brush and dashed out of the talisman-making room. 2 breaths later, from a cliff somewhere on the side of Moa Mountain, a cloud boat suddenly soared into the sky. After soaring high into the sky, it continued to speed towards Dongshan City. 6 days later, on Taiwu Mountain, in the mountaintop courtyard, all the Zhao family cultivators appeared there. Everyone looked heartbroken. Meanwhile, in a bedroom in the courtyard, Zhao Jinjian lay stiffly on the bed, his face extremely pale. At this time, Zhao Sheng sat by the bed, his head slightly lowered, silent, his expression unusually calm. Behind him, Zhao Zuanjing, Zhao Zuanan, Zhao Keru and other important members of the Zhao family all stood solemnly. After all, Zhao Sheng didn't have the time to see Zhao Jinjian one last time. Seeing Zhao Sheng remain silent and waited for a long time, Zhao Zuanan could not help but advise, "7th uncle, don't be too sad." The 4th grandfather left with a smile in the end. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Sheng suddenly laughed, and 2 tears overflowed from the corners of his eyes. "Of course your 4th grandfather would laugh. Not only him, but I would laugh too." He could hold his head high, chest out, and report to the ancestors with a smile, saying that he did not disappoint their expectations. The family did not decline in his hands, but became more and more prosperous, and has established an eternal foundation for future generations. He is proud. After speaking, Zhao Sheng stood up, turned around and looked at Zhao Zuanjing and others with a look of satisfaction. Zhao Keru, 3rd level foundation establishment, Zhao Zuanjing, 4th level foundation establishment, Zhao Zuanan, 2nd level foundation establishment, Zhao Zuans, great perfection of key refining, Zhao Tuangxin, great perfection of key refining. 30 years passed, and besides him, the Zhao family had 3 more foundation establishment cultivators, 4 more great perfections of key refining, and 18 late-stage key refining cultivators. The family's immortal cultivators now numbered over 100. Furthermore, the sacred land of Taiwu Mountain, covering 100 square kilometers, housed over 200,000 ordinary members, and its influence extended thousands of miles. The Zhao family prospered, its successors assured. Zhao Jinjian could die with a smile, and Zhao Sheng could lay down his burdens and pursue great things. A day later, Zhao Jinjian was buried with a great ceremony, and Taiwu Mountain was festooned with lights and colors, a scene of joy. A month later, Zhao Sheng appeared on the mountainside of Taiwu Mountain, quietly infiltrated the Green Lake, and planted the first batch of his backup plan at the bottom. 3 months later, Zhao Sheng resolutely left Taiwu Mountain, despite the pleas of Zhao Zuanin and others. Before leaving, he held long, secret conversations with Zhao Zuanjing and Zhao Zuanin for 2 days. After Zhao Sheng left, Zhao Zuanjing also returned to the Zhao clan's secret residence on Xianzhu Mountain. He was the leader of the Anbu, content with a life of solitude. 7 days later, a cloud boat quietly landed on the shores of Longli Lake. After the Zhao family moved away, the Jiang sect reclaimed Longli Lake, but instead of relocating new immortal cultivators, it once again became a base for outpost disciples. Zhao Sheng didn't stay long, laying the groundwork for his second backup plan before departing. When he reappeared, he was thousands of miles away in Nanyang City. Centuries had passed, and the Liang Kingdom had long since vanished. But the Nanyang Zhao clan remained standing, known as a millennia-old family and dominating Ganzhou. After centuries of continuous expansion, the Zhao family cemetery now encompassed the entire mountain. Although the cemetery was filled with tombstones and over 10,000 graves, the two mausoleums in the center always stood out. As the sun set, its dim light slanted across the tombstone. Zhao Sheng sat on the stone steps, reading the lines of text on it with an inexplicably complex expression. What is love in this world, that it binds us together through life and death? Flying together in pairs, their old wings have weathered many winters and summers. Joy is joy, parting is pain, and even among them are foolish children. You should have said, 1,000 miles of vast clouds, 1,000 mountains covered in snow at dusk, to whom shall my lonely shadow go? Looking at the tombstone of his wife, Wang Yuan, Zhao Sheng remained silent for a long time. As the sun set and dusk fell, Zhao Sheng suddenly stood up without a word and walked down the mountain step by step. As his figure gradually lengthened and faded under the blood-red sunset, a gust of wind blew, and a sigh suddenly filled the air, a whisper slowly echoing through the cemetery. After all, it's hard to let go. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, First Arrival and Trouble. The Desolate Realm, a vast expanse of Gobi Desert and few oases, lies in the northwest of Central Continent, renowned for its abundance and diversity of spiritual minerals. Year-round, the air is shrouded in dust and sand, creating a gloomy atmosphere day and night, often accompanied by black sandstorms that can last for 10 days or even half a month. Deep within the desolate realm lies Black Iron City, originally a vast mine producing black iron. 20 years ago, it flourished, boasting a population of 130,000 to 140,000. However, the main vein of black iron ore was largely mined, rendering the mine largely worthless. Many years ago, with the previous clan's voluntary withdrawal from Black Iron City, the protective magic array surrounding the city fell into disrepair and gradually stagnated. Years of sandstorms have left the city walls riddled with holes, many filled with gravel, like pools of black, stagnant water, gradually engulfing and assimilating everything around them. The city's buildings, too, seem to have decayed and aged. Over time, Black Iron City, no longer suitable for human habitation, quickly became a deserted wasteland, suffering the same fate as countless other cities in the desolate realm that prospered and perished because of mining. One day, the wind and sand were strong, and the dilapidated streets were almost deserted. Zhou Quan emerged from the abandoned mine tunnel, brushing himself against the sand as he walked, sending countless black gravel raining down. In Black Iron City, low-level miners like Zhou Quan were no exception. Many elderly, sick, disabled, and young still relied on their labor to eke out a living. Zhou Quan had just mined dozens of kilograms of black iron ore on the Bingwu Road. After selling the ore today, he was considering returning to the Moon Spring for a few days of rest. Just then, Zhou Quan saw a cloaked figure enter the west gate at the end of the road. Like everyone else entering Black Iron City from outside, he began to shake off the sand. Zhou Quan couldn't help but grin, but quickly covered his mouth. But it was too late. The cloaked figure had already looked their way. Zhou Quan quickly turned around. Though a bit careless, he was still quite sharp. He knew who to provoke, and who he couldn't afford to. Anyone who could come to Black Iron City alone at this hour had to possess incredible martial arts skills, Perhaps even an immortal master. He was just asking for trouble by watching the joke. Quaner. When will you ever change your dissolute ways? Zhou Quan silently criticized himself, feigning composure as he turned and walked away. After a few steps, he breathed a sigh of relief when nothing happened behind him. But then, someone behind him coughed softly. Young man. Zhou Quan's scalp prickled, but he quickly feigned confusion, turning his head and turning back. As expected, it was the cloaked figure. Senior, what can I do for you? Zhou Quan was the typical treasure hunter, with rough skin, a scorched complexion, and strong, powerful limbs. But surprisingly, his smile was very friendly and endearing. This smile also saved him from many fatalities. I'm new here and wanted to ask for directions. Do you know how to get to Fengyu Tang in the city? The cloaked figure spoke in a gentle, kind voice, but his accent sounded unfamiliar. Could it be that you've just arrived in Pyongyang from another realm? Zhou Quan's smile widened as he understood the situation. Fengyu Tang, huh? Go straight from here until you reach East City. Turn right at the second intersection, and you'll find the shop right there, he said with a simple, honest grin. The cloaked figure nodded slightly and turned to walk that way. Zhou Quan couldn't help but glance at the cloaked figure's back before turning and walking away. Just then, a jade-white stone bead suddenly fell from the sky and landed in his arms. Zhou Quan picked up the stone bead and exclaimed, Spirit stone, ugh. Zhou Quan covered his mouth with his hands and swiftly hid the spirit stone in his arms. After a cautious look around, he quickly turned into the alley. After making many detours, he was about to return to the mine when he heard footsteps approaching rapidly from behind. Zhou Quan hurriedly dodged, but the person who came was very skilled. He grabbed his neck and threw him against the wall next to him. His huge and fat body cast a large shadow, pressing down. Haha, Quaner, long time no see. You must have dug up a lot of treasures. Zhou Quan smiled bitterly when he saw the person coming. Thank you for taking care of me, third master. As he said that, he flipped his palm and a piece of gold leaf appeared in his hand. He stuffed it into the giant's hand very familiarly. After the giant took it, his face was stern. There's more. Hand it over. What is it? Zhou Quan was shocked, but his face was full of confusion. The giant, third master, sneered. With a powerful exertion of his right hand, he easily lifted Zhou Quan close to him, his face stern and snarling. How dare you play dumb with me? I'm talking about the spirit stone. Where's the spirit stone? Zhou Quan shuddered, his face filled with fear. Third master, please forgive me. Here's the spirit stone. Reaching into his arms, he pulled out the spirit stone and held it before the giant. Snap! Zhou Quan fell to the ground. The giant grasped the spirit stone, examining it for a few moments. A smile crept across his face, and he put it into his pocket. Zhou Quan huddled on the ground. Third master, I won't dare do that again. Get up. Third master has something for you, the giant said sternly, kicking Zhou Quan's arm. What is it? I'm stupid, and I'm afraid I can't get it done and delay third master's important task. Zhou Quan climbed to his feet, nodding and smiling naively. You know what? You're the only one who can handle this matter. Who asked you to be so kind as to show people the way? Who else should we look for if not you? Show people the way. You mean, the one who just came in from the west gate? The giant third master lowered his voice and said, you don't need to know anything else. You go to Fengyu Tang and find a chance to say that a treasure pit has been discovered in the Yihai mining tunnel. Then lead the Fengyu Tang gang to the treasure pit. Third master who had actually been secretly watching Fengyu Tang and reacted so quickly. Something big was about to happen. You know, Fengyu Tang was also a big gang a few years ago. Although it has declined now, it is not something a miner like him can afford to fend. Zhou Quan groaned in his heart and complained, Yihai Road, it's too remote. If it's not remote, you are still needed, the giant man shouted in a low voice. I'll give you 7 days, before the next wave of black sandstorm comes, lead people to Yihai Road. Don't worry about the reward. Some of it will be your benefit. Of course, if you fail, you don't have to live. The chill in the words made Zhou Quan's face gloomy. The giant third master laughed heartily, and straightened up his leaning body. You're lucky. If this goes through, you have a piece of land over at Moon Spring. Hearing the word land, Zhou Quan's body trembled again. He lowered his head, raised his face again, and said through gritted teeth, let's do it. But third master, you have to give me a definite answer. The people from Fengyu Hall are ruthless. Afterwards, Dallin Hall has to save my life, haha, don't worry. After this, Fengaiyu Hall will surely disappear. Everyone is dead, how can we bother you? The giant third master laughed heartily and patted Zhou Quan on the shoulder. Thanks to the buck friend, the clown, who wants to go to heaven for the 5,000 coins reward. Baimuyi thanks you. Chapter 130, Snitch. Zhao Sheng walked towards East City, sighing inwardly. After being accustomed to the mountains, rivers, and lush greenery of central China, he felt a little out of place suddenly in the vast deserts of the northwest. The winds of the desolate territory were cold, the sand was abundant, the land was barren, and the people were as rough and cold as the sand. However, the young man who had asked for directions was a pleasant person, with a touch of humanity. After walking for a while, Zhao Sheng followed the directions and arrived at a shop. The door was closed, with a plaque above it reading Feng Yu Tang in large characters. He had arrived. He knocked on the door, and a lean young man opened it. Who are you looking for? The young man asked warily. Zhao Sheng made a few strange gestures at the man, then flashed a token. Feng Yu Ling, the young man exclaimed, hurriedly welcoming Zhao Sheng inside. The door of Feng Yu Tang slammed shut. Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the street, a scruffy beggar slowly rose to his feet. The beggar glanced at Feng Yu Tang for a few moments, then turned and limped towards the West City. The beggar was a spy for the Great Dragon Hall. Feng Yu Tang has a new recruit, he had to report this to Lord Long immediately. A moment later, in the back hall of Feng Yu Tang, Zhao Sheng took off his cloak and turned to sit on the dragon and tiger chair at the head of the hall. Across from him, a group of men in dark formal attire half knelt on the ground. In front of them, 4 disciples, each in a different shape and appearance, in blood-red robes, bowed to him. Chen Xiaoeng, Feng Bupo, Wan Hunter, Liu Gonggayu, welcome, Uncle Master. Zhao Sheng waved his hand, his expression calm, and said, no need for formalities. Everyone, rise. Yes, Uncle Master, Hall Master, the crowd responded with a roar, then all rose. Zhao Sheng nodded with satisfaction, praising Chen Xiaoeng and the others. Well done, you're thoughtful. Chen Xiaoeng and the others were carefully selected by Zhao Sheng. A month earlier, the 4 had arrived in Zhuanti City. Within a few days, they had subdued Fengaiyu Hall and rapidly consolidated their power. Therefore, upon Zhao Sheng's arrival, there wasn't a single murmur within Fengaiyu Hall. Of course, the changes in Fengaiyu Hall had also drawn the attention of other factions, particularly those that had joined forces to exclude Fengaiyu Hall in previous years. Zhao Sheng waved the others away, leaving only the 4 Vajras behind. Who can tell me about Fengaiyu Hall's specific situation? Zhao Sheng began with a nonchalant question. The 4 exchanged glances, and Chen Xiaoeng immediately stepped forward and respectfully stated, Uncle Master, Fengaiyu Hall currently has 12 key refining immortals, 1 in the late key refining stage, and 1 in the middle. Chen Xiaoeng's voice was clear and unhurried. He was a distinguished man, and even in his 60s, he retained a graceful demeanor. Zhao Sheng listened silently, nodding silently. In just 3 months, this man has subdued the other 3. It seems he's a promising talent. From now on, we can safely entrust Fengaiyu Hall's affairs to him. Zhao Sheng had traveled thousands of miles to the Xianhuan territory, not to serve the Guiyuan sect as a blood cow, but to destroy the Zhou family, avenging the separation and destruction of his family in his previous life. Before arriving in Zhuanti City, he had already formulated a general plan. Integrating Fengaiyu Hall was only the beginning. The next step in the plan's implementation would depend on the specific circumstances. After Chen Xiaoeng finished describing Fengaiyu Hall's situation, Zhao Sheng asked him to discuss the forces within Zhuanwu City. Zhuanwu City currently has 2 major factions, the Great Dragon Hall and the Mining Gang. Each is headed by a foundation establishment cultivator, whose exact cultivation level is unknown. In addition, there are 2 other factions with comparable strength to Fengaiyu Hall. Zhao Sheng interrupted, let's not discuss the others, let's just talk about the Great Dragon Hall and the Mining Gang. Yes, Uncle Master. The Great Dragon Hall's leader, nicknamed Lord Long, is a foundation establishment cultivator. Within the hall, there are, after a cup of tea, Chen Xiaoeng finished his story and retreated to the group of 4. Zhao Sheng pondered for a moment, then instructed, write an invitation and send it to the leader of the Mining Gang. Tell them I'll be visiting in 3 days. According to Taoist Fengaiyu, the Great Dragon Hall was one of the factions that had previously excluded Fengaiyu Hall, While the Mining Gang was a newly formed faction within the past decade and had no prior grudges against Fengaiyu Hall, Zhao Sheng initially planned to join forces with the Mining Gang to subjugate the Great Dragon Hall. Of course, before doing so, he had to inquire from the Mining Gang about Lord Long's true cultivation level and whether the Great Dragon Hall had any connections. The Xianhuang territory is uniquely situated, smack dab in the middle of the righteous and demonic realms, a complex gray area. Much like Fengaiyu Hualtigian sect, the major sects of both righteous and demonic forces also have a presence in the Xianhuang territory, deploying countless strategic assets, both covert and overt. Their spheres of influence intersect, and the veiled struggle has raged for countless years. One day later, Zhao Sheng sat in his study, flipping through a book on the customs and people of the Daong dynasty. Just then, Chen Xiaowen quietly entered. "What's going on, Uncle Master? Someone wants to see you. They have something important to tell you." Zhao Sheng paused, closed the book, and said, "Show him in." Soon, Zhou Quan, trembling with fear, followed Chen Xiaoeng inside. Upon meeting Zhao Sheng, he dropped to his knees, crying out, "Senior, I kowtow to you. Please save my life." With that, he slammed his head to the ground. "Wait!" Zhao Sheng waved his hand, and a ray of spiritual light shot out, stopping Zhou Quan from bowing. He then demanded, "You're talking nonsense. Start from the beginning." Zhou Quan wiped away his tears and cautiously asked, "Yesterday, Senior, weren't you asking me for directions?" Zhao Sheng nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. Zhou Quan excitedly said, "As soon as you asked for directions, the third master of the Daling Hall came looking for me." Zhao Sheng was startled. He had underestimated the power of local tyrants. He hadn't expected to be targeted the moment he entered the city. "He told me to join you, and then he'll find a way to lure your people to Yi High Road." Saying there, Zhou Quan finished, looking at Zhao Sheng eagerly. Chen Xiaoeng, listening nearby, was furious. "Damn it! The Daling Hall is still so ruthless. It seems they're going to wipe us out." "Uncle Master." "You?" Zhao Sheng waved his hand, interrupting Chen Xiaoeng. He looked at Zhou Quan and asked with interest, "Why did you tell me this? Aren't you afraid that the Dalantang will retaliate against you later?" Zhou Quan gritted his teeth and said hatefully, "No. Whether I tell on you or not, I'll definitely die." "Oh?" Seeing Zhao Sheng's suspicion, Zhou Quan immediately said, "That jerk said he'd give me a share of the Moon Spring land after the deal was done. Haha. He's playing me for a fool. Is the Moon Spring land something a mortal can touch? Not to mention I couldn't get it. Even if he had given it to me, I would have died the next day. It's death anyway, so we might as well give it a try." Zhao Sheng pondered for a moment and ordered, "Get up. Xiaoeng, take him down and make sure he's staying. The big show in a few days will require his cooperation." Chen Xiaoeng bowed and said, "Yes, Uncle Master, thanks to the book friend I love wine and sweet potatoes for the 2,000 coin reward." Bama Yi thanked him. Chapter 131 There is a city in the underworld. Not long after, Chen Xiaoeng, who had been leaving, suddenly returned and whispered something in Zhao Sheng's ear. Zhao Sheng slammed the book shut, his eyes gleaming with surprise. "Are you saying Zhou Quan is from the Zhou family of Honggaiangzhou? Have you confirmed that, Uncle Master?" "I've asked repeatedly. I don't think he'd dare lie about something like this." "Yes, good. I understand. You may leave." After Chen Xiaoeng turned and left, a hint of a smile crossed Zhao Sheng's face. The Xianhuang territory was divided into two great dynasties, the Great Yong and the Great Zhen. The Great Yong dynasty comprised 88 continents, and Honggaiangzhou, where the Zhou family lived, was one of the 9 highest. And this Zhou family, it was precisely the one Zhao Sheng sought to destroy. The Mining Gang, one of the 2 major factions in Zhuanti City, was founded 13 years ago. That year, the black iron ore deposits beneath Zhuanti City had been completely mined, and the sects withdrew, abandoning thousands of miners. Seeing countless miners losing their livelihoods, a foundation establishment cultivator arrived in Black Iron City. He recruited the miners, occupied the mine tunnels, and formed a mining gang. After its formation, the gang's influence expanded rapidly, quickly controlling most of the mine tunnels in Black Iron City. In a mining city, mine tunnels represent wealth, and the gang's occupation of mine tunnels undoubtedly snatched food from the Great Dragon Hall. Consequently, the Great Dragon Hall and the gang fought countless battles for the tunnels, with both sides winning and losing, but always a clear winner. As the saying goes, there can't be two tigers in one mountain. The two major gangs in Black Iron City quickly became sworn enemies. That day, the sky was filled with dark clouds, and an endless sandstorm howled across Black Iron City. A drizzling rain of gravel fell from the city, and the air was dry and the sandstorm was blinding. Black Iron City was deserted, with few people walking on the streets. Most people stayed in the rooms in the mine tunnels, seeking shelter from the inclement weather. However, in front of the Jiazi mine in South City, numerous burly men, braving the wind and sand, lingered around the tunnel. These men wore conical hats, their eyes wary, constantly monitoring their surroundings. Near the tunnel entrance, a large man in gray folded his arms, his face sullen. A shroud of light enveloped him, shielding him from the swirling sandstorm. After a long wait, no one appeared. Just as the gray-clad man was growing impatient, a light cough erupted from behind him. A cough. Startled, the gray-clad man turned abruptly to see a tall, slender, gray-haired old man appear from the inside of the tunnel, largely hidden by the darkness. "Excuse me, distinguished guest, are you from Fengaiyu Hall?" the gray-clad man asked cautiously, startled. Zhao Sheng nodded slightly. Yes, the gray-clad man's eyes flickered, and he was startled again. He couldn't sense a single aura, as if the person across from him were a phantom illusion. Yet, the old man was clearly standing there, alive and well. As the deputy leader of the mining gang, he had already reached the great perfection of key refining. The man who came was even stronger than him. Surely he must be at the foundation establishment stage? The gray-clad man put aside his earlier discontent and said respectfully, "Senior, please follow me. My gang leader is waiting for you." "Thank you, I dare not, please." The gray-clad man led the way, leading Zhao Sheng 200 feet underground. Only then did Zhao Sheng suddenly realize that the Black Iron City had been almost completely hollowed out, forming a vast hollow nest. Within, a dense network of tunnels stretched in all directions, though the light was dim. A quarter of an hour later, the two men arrived at a large mining cavern. It resembled an underground cavern, roughly half the size of the Mountain Dragon Grotto. A 2-meter-wide mine tunnel spiraled downward along the cavern wall. Inside, carved into the tunnel were stone caverns for human habitation. At the bottom of the mine lay a cluster of stone houses of varying heights. Some were exquisite, others rugged, like those of a desolate world. Soon, the two men passed through more than a dozen buildings and stopped in front of a spacious white stone house. A thin, dark-skinned old man stood in front of the house, gazing at Zhao Sheng and his companions with a smile. Behind him stood a row of strong men, arms strong enough to ride on horses. "Boss, distinguished guests have arrived." The gray-clad man took a few steps ahead, approached the old man, and bowed. Sensing the old man's undisguised foundation establishment aura, Zhao Sheng smiled slightly and released his own aura. The old man's eyes lit up, and he bowed, saying, "Ma Dake of the mining gang, welcome to our door. I am Zhao Hicken of Fengaiyu Hall, meeting Boss Ma." Zhao Sheng didn't use his real name, but rather the name of his past life. "Please." Ma Dake stepped aside and made a gesture of invitation. Zhao Sheng nodded slightly and stepped forward. Soon, the two of them walked into the stone house, one on the left and one on the right. Half a day later, it was already late at night in Xuanwu City, and Zhao Sheng reappeared in Fengaiyu Hall. As soon as he returned, Zhao Sheng immediately summoned Chen Xiaoeng, Feng Bupo and the other four. "Uncle Master, is the deal done?" "Yeah." Zhao Sheng rubbed his forehead as he sat on the dragon and tiger chair. He had just been scheming with an old fox for a long time, which had consumed a lot of his energy. Chen Xiaoeng and the other three were delighted to see this. With the two major forces joining forces, the chances of swallowing up the Daling Hall increased by another 20%. "Xiaoeng, have you explored Yihai Road? What's going on with the Dalong Tang? Thanks to the talismans my uncle master gave us, we've roughly figured out the trap in the so-called treasure pit. The Dalong Tang have secretly planted numerous firebombs there. They're planning to blow up Yihai Road and bury us alive." Zhao Sheng was amazed. He'd used this Dalong Tang method once before in Flame Ridge, and it worked. He had never imagined that someone would use a similar tactic against him. "Haha, let's just add fuel to the fire." Zhao Sheng chuckled to himself, then pulled a handful of talismans from his storage bag and handed them to Chen Xiaoeng. "Xiaoeng, these are mother-child chain talismans. Bury them in Yihai Road, and then do this and that." As Zhao Sheng laid out his ideas, Chen Xiaoeng and the other three's eyes lit up, finally revealing a mixture of excitement and awe. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Zhou Quan's days felt like years, constantly receiving death threats from the Dalong Tang. The originally set 7-day deadline had long since passed, yet Fengayudeng, despite having clearly understood everything, remained inactive. Just when Zhou Quan thought they were fearing the Dalong Tang's strength and ready to abandon him, someone finally announced, "We can launch our attack." Upon hearing this, Zhou Quan nearly burst into tears of joy. He quickly followed instructions and sent word to Dalong Tang. That afternoon, Zhou Quan quietly led a group of Fengayudeng members out of Zhuanti City, heading for the Yehadeo mining tunnel 100 miles away. Among them were Zhao Sheng, Chen Xiaoeng, Feng Bupo, and others. Since they were laying bait, they had to make it look genuine, otherwise they wouldn't catch any big fish. Seeing Fengayudeng take the bait, Dalong Tang quickly took action, simultaneously sending word to their ambushed forces in Yehadeo. Unbeknownst to them, the real Zhao Sheng had just appeared in a secret room in the west section of Zhuanwu City. Looking at the murderous Ma Dake, Zhao Sheng smiled faintly and said, "Boss Ma, the Dalong Hall has taken the bait, This tactic of using the opponent's strategy against them is brilliant. Wang Dalong is left with no one around. Let's just charge in, Boss Ma and this guy are old rivals. How about you lead the charge? I'll give him a hard time from the back." Ma Dake chuckled. "Friend Zhao, you're not plotting against me too, are you?" "No. If you don't trust me, I'll swear a heart demon vow." Zhao Sheng was unequivocal, and immediately swore a heart demon vow. Seeing this, Ma Dake felt relieved and shouted, "All right. This first charge, I'll take it." A moment later, the room was empty, but a thick murderous aura lingered in the air. Zhuanshan City had a rare day of fine weather that day. The sandstorm dissipated, and the sky was a brilliant blue. As dusk approached, the setting sun was a blood red. 100 miles from Black Iron City, a resounding explosion erupted from the desolate Gobi Desert. A cloud of dust and sand erupted, instantly obscuring half the sky. Simultaneously, from Black Iron City's west side, a series of short shouts and cries of killing erupted. Shortly thereafter, a streak of gray light suddenly emerged from the west side and sped toward the horizon. Immediately afterwards, 2 streaks of light, one red and one black, swiftly shot out from the city, following the direction of the gray light's flight. The 3 streaks of light flew faster and faster, disappearing into the horizon in a flash. As the last rays of sunlight faded and night fell over Black Iron City, 2 streaks of light, one red and one black, suddenly flew from the horizon toward the city. Upon reaching Black Iron City's skies, the 2 streaks collided and separated, landing in the east and south sides, respectively. The next day, when the sun rose again, the residents of Black Iron City suddenly discovered that the weather had changed. The once dominant Dalong Hall vanished overnight, replaced by the once declining Fenggayu Hall. Within a single day, the residents of Zhuanti City recognized Fenggayu Hall's prestige. Within a few days, all traces of Dalong Hall were obliterated from the minds of Zhuanwu City residents, as if it had never existed. However, one thing struck most as peculiar. They had expected the destruction of Dalong Hall to trigger a conflict between the mining gang and Fenggayu Hall over control of Zhuanti City. Surprisingly, not only did the 2 gangs not clash, but their relationship grew even closer. This was because Ma Dake was frightened. On the day of the siege of Wang Dalong, Zhao Sheng's attack not only severely injured Wang Dalong but also exposed his 6th-level foundation establishment cultivation. Ma Dake, at only the 4th level, felt no match for Zhao Sheng and feared he might strike out. Consequently, the mining gang voluntarily gave up most of their profits as a gesture of goodwill. Zhao Sheng had never intended to kill Ma Dake, because he wouldn't stay in Zhuanti City for long. After his departure, Fenggayu Hall would be without a foundation establishment leader, so Ma Dake happened to take over his responsibility for the hall. 300 miles south of Zhuanti City lies an oasis, approximately 30 miles in size. At its center lies a lake, which, viewed from the sky, resembles a full moon, earning it the name Moon Spring, and the oasis itself. One day, a cloud bolt flew over the Moon Spring oasis. Zhao Sheng looked down and saw vast farmlands surrounding Moon Lake, with canals radiating outward along the farmlands. At the outermost edge of the oasis, a forest of green thorns and wild thorns, unique to the Xianhuan territory, grew thickets. These trees formed a verdant barrier, shielding against the wind and sand. Beyond the farmlands, scattered around Moon Spring were a dozen exquisite stone temples and wooden buildings. Each of these buildings shimmered with spiritual light, clearly protected by a series of defensive formations. A moment later, the cloud boat landed in front of a stone temple at Moon Spring. Zhao Sheng retracted his cloud boat and led Zhou Quan into the stone hall. This hall served as one of the entrances to Guangxia City. The Xianhuang territory's harsh environment meant oases were rare. To avoid disrupting the oasis' ecological environment, Guangxia City, like most oasis cities, was built beneath the Moon Spring. After paying the entrance tax, the two men descended along a massive stone passage. After passing through the long passage, nearly 300 feet below the surface, Zhao Sheng's vision suddenly brightened, revealing a magnificent underground city. Looking around, Zhao Sheng noticed the unique lighting in Guangxia City. Because it was underground, access to natural light was crucial. He spotted two sources of light. One was a red-white sphere suspended high in the dome, capable of illuminating most of the cave. To simulate the change of day and night, the sphere shifted to orange every few hours. The other was a luminous stone embedded in the cave wall. From a distance, it looked like twinkling stars, yet the light was soft, cool, and comforting. However, the light source issue soon ceased to draw Zhao Sheng's attention. He turned to look at Zhou Quan and asked, "Where do you live?" Hearing Zhao Sheng's question, Zhou Quan was stunned for a moment, letting out an ah, then hurriedly said with a smile, "Senior, I live in Black Rat Alley. I'll take you there right away." On the way here, Zhou Quan had already described the general structure of Guangxia City to Zhao Sheng. Like any other major city, Guangxia City clearly demarcates the strong and the weak, the rich and the poor. For example, where Zhao Sheng now stood, in the northwest corner of Guangxia City, it was a chaotic place, always a mix of good and bad. From there, leading into the city, the two most prosperous and famous immortal squares were Changsheng Square and Jile Square. Changsheng Square was where immortal cultivators lived. Next to Changsheng Square was Jile Square, a commercial and entertainment area created by the major forces in the Xianhuang territory. Changsheng Square and Jile Square were also located in various underground cities in the Xianhuang territory. Black Rat Alley? Let's go. With that, Zhao Sheng headed towards the city. Zhou Chu, stunned as a fool, watched Zhao Sheng walk away, mumbling a few words before finally saying nothing. Zhou Quan sighed and hurried to catch up. In his opinion, Black Rat Alley was where mortals lived, and the immortal master, Zhao Sheng, should be in Changsheng Fang. In a blink of an eye, Zhao Sheng had settled in Guangxia City, unashamedly living in Zhou Quan's rented house. Zhou Quan couldn't understand why, but he didn't dare ask. The next day, however, his doubts were forgotten. Thanks to Zhao Sheng's presence, his standard of living had skyrocketed. Not only was he well-fed, but he was also earning a fortune from intelligence fees. That's right. He was now gathering intelligence on the Zhou family for Zhao Sheng. The Zhou family had many businesses in Guangxia City. Zhou Quan's father, a member of the Zhou family and a late-stage key refining cultivator, had been sent to Guangxia City decades ago to protect the assets. His father died of old age when Zhou Quan was a teenager. Afterward, Zhou Quan was left with nowhere to go and had to fend for himself. Thanks to fellow reader King Luo is a weak lover for the 1,500 coin reward. Baimuyi thanks you. Chapter 132 The curtain begins. Half a month later, Zhou Quan's intelligence was dwindling, leaving him deeply distressed. He'd been scowling for the past few days. After all, the less intelligence he had, the fewer spirit stones he could earn. Zhao Sheng paid no attention to Zhou Quan's distress. After a month of seclusion in Guangxia City, it was time for him to make his move. Deep underground, there was no day or night, no concept of the passage of time. To measure time, the light spheres suspended in the dome shifted in brightness according to the external day and night cycle. That day, as the light spheres gradually dimmed, the luminous stones atop the dome glowed like stars, ushering in a new night in Guangxia City. Zhao Sheng, wearing a hooded robe, entered the Kuai Tower. Located in the most prosperous area of Jilafang, Kuai Tower wasn't a place of indulgence, but rather a renowned winds media organization in central continent. Rumor had it that Kuai Tower was an intelligence organization affiliated with a Horan sect. Its name derived from the character Kuai, meaning a touch of Horan Ki, 1,000-mile Kuai wind. Entering Kuai Tower, Zhao Sheng saw no one. Only an empty hall, flanked by 8 plain gray wooden doors. In the center of the hall stood a wall inscribed with the 4 characters, Heaven and Earth, mysterious yellow. Beneath each character stood a wooden table, inscribed with the characters, 10,000, 1,000, 100, 10. Zhao Sheng walked without hesitation to the character, took out a mid-grade spirit stone, and placed it on the table. With a soft hum, the table instantly flipped, the spirit stone vanishing, replaced by a bronze token. As Zhao Sheng lifted the token, the third wooden door to his left suddenly swung open. Without hesitation, Zhao Sheng took the token and stepped through. Walking down a corridor, he arrived at a narrow room. It was sparsely furnished, with only a wooden table and 2 chairs. An ordinary-looking middle-aged man sat behind the table, silently awaiting guests. Zhao Sheng entered and took a seat. "Sir, what do you want to ask?" The middle-aged man, though unassuming in appearance, possessed an unusually deep and magnetic voice, a breathtaking warmth. Zhao Sheng spoke directly. "I need information on the Zhou family of the Great Yuan dynasty. Specifically, information on the giant ancestor and the members of the Foundation Establishment clan." "Are you asking about the family in Hongyang's Hao?" "Yes, well, the fee for information on giant families generally starts at 1,000 spirit stones. The exact price depends on the quality of the intelligence gathered. Please come back in 3 days." "Okay." Zhao Sheng left Kuaizhe Tower a short while later. 3 days passed in a flash. Zhao Sheng returned to Kuaizhe Tower and placed the token on the Zhuanzi desk. The desk flipped over, and the token vanished. Snap! The wooden door opened again, and Zhao Sheng stepped inside. Entering the room he had been in before, he saw the same middle-aged man. The man immediately delivered the bad news to Zhao Sheng. "Sir, I'm deeply sorry. The Zhou family has purchased a ground-level confidentiality order from this building. For 100 years, this building will not disclose any confidential information regarding the Zhou family." Zhao Sheng frowned upon hearing this. The ground-level confidentiality order held extremely high confidentiality, requiring at least heaven-level authority to breach its restrictions. However, heaven-level authority was extremely difficult to obtain in Kuaizhe building, and it wasn't simply a matter of spending spirit stones. The client needed to be at least a giant's Henrun. Zhao Sheng paused for a moment, then asked, "If we can't get confidential information, what about public information?" "Yes, we do have public information for 1,000 spirit stones." The middle-aged man slid a thin booklet toward Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng took out 10 mid-grade spirit stones and laid them out on the table. He then picked up the booklet and put it into his storage bag. "Goodbye, welcome back next time." Zhou family patriarch, real name, Zhou Zile, age, unknown, just celebrated his 10th birthday 100 years ago, cultivation, unknown, late giant stage 100 years ago, main cultivation technique, unknown, fire element, life experience, entranced to the Dian Palace in his early years. Zhou family patriarch, real name, Zhou Ying's, age, unknown, cultivation, unknown, estimated 9th level of foundation establishment. Zhao Sheng slowly flipped through the intelligence booklet in his hand, his brow furrowing with each reading. As expected, this public intelligence was not only largely irrelevant, but also severely out of date. Zhao Sheng had already inquired about most of it, some of which was even 10 times more detailed than what was in the booklet. Take Zhou family patriarch Zhou Ying's, for example. Zhao Sheng knew full well that he had reached the great perfection of foundation establishment 10 years ago. Although there was no concrete information available now, it was possible that he had already successfully advanced to the giant stage. On a related note, while the information from Kuaizhe Tower was delayed, it was highly accurate. The information in the booklet largely matched the information he had gathered. An hour later, Zhao Sheng finished reading the intelligence booklet and secretly estimated the Zhou family's strength. The Zhou family currently had 1 late-stage giant ancestor and 18 foundation establishment warriors, including one who had reached the great perfection of foundation establishment, 2 in the late foundation establishment stage, 6 in the middle foundation establishment stage, 9 in the early foundation establishment stage, and a negligible number in the key refining stage. Zhao Sheng's mind was reduced to one simple thought: we can't defeat them by force, we can only outsmart them. Opening his eyes, Zhao Sheng couldn't help but let out a sigh of frustration, his thoughts turning to Guangxi City. The Zhou family's manager of Guangxi City's businesses was named Zhou Hongyu. He possessed 3 spiritual roots and had reached the 2nd level of foundation establishment. He was meticulous, fond of wine and not lustful. Zhao Sheng pondered Zhou Hongyu over and over, and a plan slowly formed in his mind. After formulating his plan, Zhao Sheng took Zhou Quan back to Zhuanti city and settled him there. Then, he summoned the 4 Vajras and ordered them to collect as many kinds of spiritual liquor as possible, including ordinary liquor. Although Chen Xiaoying and the others didn't understand why their uncle master had issued such a strange order, they dared not neglect it and immediately carried out the order. Within a few days, hundreds of various kinds of liquor were delivered to Fengaiyu Hall's inner courtyard. Then, Zhao Sheng ordered everyone to buy various herbs, spices, and even fruits and vegetables, strange items. This completely confused Chen Xiaoying and the others. They had no idea what their uncle master was up to. Zhao Sheng had no intention of explaining. He remained in the courtyard, never leaving, for 3 months. Chen Xiaoying and the others tried several times to get the hang of it, but they couldn't find the key. However, every time they came, they could smell the aroma of liquor, mixed with a hint of sweet, sour, bitter, and spicy flavors. 3 months later, Zhao Sheng finally emerged from the courtyard. Chen Xiaoyan breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly reported Fengaiyu Hall's recent affairs to his uncle master. Zhao Sheng listened briefly, then nodded and told them to make their own decisions. Don't disturb him unless it was important. 2 days later, Zhao Sheng departed Zhuanti city. When he reappeared, he was already on the 2nd floor of the Xiangxilifang in Guangxi city. Zhao Sheng ordered a table full of food. Soon, special dishes like the demon bear's honey claw, 5 birds' golden marrow, 8 treasures' golden meat, and red steam tiger and leopard tongue were served in a stream. When the food was complete, Zhao Sheng took out a palm-sized white jade gourd. Chapter 133 Friendship of Kin and Sen. Zhao Sheng reached out and uncorked the gourd, and a rich aroma of wine instantly emanated, filling the entire Xiangxiu restaurant. Wow, what a nice smell! Where does that smell come from? I'm dying of thirst. Instantly, the diners at Xiangxiu restaurant sniffed, their eyes darting towards Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng ignored the unusual sight. He took a sip from the gourd, then picked up a piece of bear meat, placed it in his mouth, and chewed it slowly. After swallowing, he took a sip of wine and another piece of meat. He ate like this, sip by sip, seemingly unhurriedly, but in one word, delicious. This wine was incredibly fragrant. One of the diners couldn't help but ask where he bought it. Zhao Sheng smiled and said it was homemade and didn't sell it. Half an hour later, Zhao Sheng paid his bill and left Xiangxiu restaurant. The next day, he was back at Xiangxiu restaurant. 2 or 3 times, half a month had passed. However, the fish Zhao Sheng was looking for still hadn't appeared. But he wasn't in a hurry, he had plenty of time. A few days passed like this. One day, Zhao Sheng was halfway through his meal when he heard someone downstairs shout, "What a nice smell of wine!" Zhao Sheng was delighted, thinking, here they come. As soon as the words had finished, a middle-aged man, broad and portly, with a blessed look and drooping eyebrows, suddenly flew up the 2nd floor and landed in front of Zhao Sheng's table. He then sat down unceremoniously and exclaimed, "What a nice smell of wine!" His face darkened. "Fellow Taoist, please forgive me. I'm Zhou Hongaiu. May I ask your name?" Zhao Zikan. Zhao Sheng's face was cold. After stating his name, he retorted, "Fellow Taoist Zhou, it's rather rude of you to come uninvited." With that, a fierce aura suddenly rose from Zhao Sheng, and his spiritual power and consciousness surged forward, pressing down upon the man. Zhou Hongaiu's heart trembled, and he secretly groaned. He hadn't expected to hide a wall this time. The other party was also a foundation establishment cultivator, and his cultivation was far higher than his. He quickly stood up, bowed his head, and apologized to Zhao Sheng. "Please forgive me for my intrusion this time." Zhao Sheng subsided and said calmly, "Please sit down." "Do you like wine too?" Zhou Hongaiu sat down carefully and said shamelessly, "To be honest, senior, I don't have any special preferences, I just love wine. I was just attracted by your fine wine, so I was so rude. Good wine, good. The world is as vast as the sun and moon in the pot. Since you like wine too, I will give you this half-gourd of amber fragrance." Zhao Sheng finished speaking, and with a push of his hand, the white jade gourd slid across the table and landed steadily in front of Zhou Hongaiu. Zhou Hongaiu eagerly picked up the gourd and tilted his head back to take a sip of the wine. Wow! As he took a sip, he was greeted by a strange aroma, his mouth brimming with saliva. A clear, watery spiritual energy spread from his stomach throughout his body, instantly clearing every pore and causing the vortex of spiritual energy within him to accelerate threefold. Excellent wine, Zhao Sheng praised repeatedly. Fine, celestial wine, fragrant and rich, amber fragrance cascaded from the jade gourd. Zhao Sheng's previously stoic expression suddenly brightened with a smile, a hint of pride etched within it. Zhao Sheng observed Zhao Sheng's expression and, secretly delighted by his expression, quickly asked, "Excuse me, senior, is this wine yours?" "Yes. This amber fragrance is just a little trifle I brewed in my spare time, nothing to write home about." Despite his words, the pride on Zhao Sheng's face grew even more pronounced. Seeing this, Zhao Sheng exclaimed in praise again. Zhao Sheng's expression grew even more affable, and his attitude towards Zhao Sheng grew even more welcoming. Their shared identity as drinking buddies fueled their mutual chemistry. They eventually agreed to spend their time together over wine. Over the next month, Zhao Sheng and Zhao Sheng met 7 or 8 times, each time sharing a variety of spirit wines for a taste. Zhao Sheng, with the Zhou family's support, possessed a vast collection of spirit wines. While Zhao Sheng couldn't match him, he had his own unique skill, brewing wine, creating a diverse array of flavors, rich in color, aroma, and depth. His secret to brewing wine lay in blending and adjusting, a skill honed by his gift of scent. Through numerous wine tastings and competitions, Zhao Sheng and Zhao Sheng forged a close friendship. As they became acquainted, Zhao Sheng shared his true identity, a free cultivator from the Qin dynasty who later joined the Guiyan sect and had recently been assigned to Xianhuan to preside over Fengaiyu Hall. Zhao Sheng was impressed by Zhao Sheng's clean background and his cultivation, reaching the 6th level of the foundation establishment stage. Furthermore, they shared a common love of alcohol. Zhao Sheng, of course, wouldn't let go of such a rare drinking buddy. He deliberately befriended Zhao Sheng and attempted to win him over. Would Zhao Sheng refuse such advances? Of course not. Like Liang Shanbo meeting Zhu Yingtai, the two instantly hit it off and quickly forged a close friendship. One word to describe it, a passionate affair. No, it should be a harmonious relationship. As the saying goes, truth comes out after drinking. After they became drinking buddies, Zhao Sheng repeatedly got Zhao Sheng drunk and tried to trick him. Zhao Sheng had no idea someone would go to such lengths to harm the Zhou family. Consequently, he wasn't too wary of Zhao Sheng. While drunk, he spilled a lot of Zhou family secrets, including complaints about how a certain family had failed to advance, how the ancestors were partial, and how the head was suppressing a branch of his family. Zhao Sheng secretly took note of all this and, using Zhao Sheng's connections to befriend other foundation establishment cultivators within the Zhou family, he quietly lurked in the shadows, biding his time. This wait lasted over a decade. Xianhuang has only 2 seasons a year, the rainy season and the dry season. When the dry season arrives, raging black sandstorms rise from the Death Desert, ravaging the vast Gobi landscape from north to south, day to night, without respite. However, there's always a limit to how strong and weak a black sandstorm can become. Once the first wave passes, its momentum weakens considerably. Taking advantage of this, some caravans venture through the raging sandstorms to reach isolated oases. It's important to note that risk and reward are generally proportional, and huge profits often result from this. Then, amidst this whirling sand, a gray-black, shuttle-shaped flying boat appeared, practically gliding along the ground. Those aboard were well accustomed to such risky ventures. 300 miles from the Moon Spring Oasis, they gathered their breaths and prepared for the final leg of their journey. The boat was small, holding 3 people. The one seated at the head had long, drooping eyebrows, a sign of considerable wealth. Everything is normal. The wind is weakening, pay attention to the surrounding movements, and also, do not deviate from the direction. The flying boat maintained speed. Yes, Uncle Yu, the observing monk was also very calm and only responded with one word, but then he suddenly raised his head. His voice was abnormally frightened, and seemed absurd, not afraid but excited. What is that? On the main seat, Zhao Sheng was drinking wine sip by sip, and when he heard the man's exclamation, he was startled, and his figure flashed and suddenly appeared beside the man. Chapter 134 Adventure. Calm down. Holding the man's shoulder, Zhao Sheng peered out through the jade window on the inner side of the flying boat. However, he glanced around, seeing nothing unusual, and a wave of discontent flared in his heart. Zhao Si, what are you yelling about? Damn it! His words morphed into curses, and Zhou Hongyu froze. A sudden gust of sandstorm blew by, brightening his vision considerably. So he saw, nearly 20 miles away, a massive figure tumbling through the vast black sand. It had seemed motionless just now, but now it soared into the air, its mountainous mass unable to conceal even the thick sand curtain. Such a massive figure from such a distance. A python? A dragon? Or, a dragon? The size, length, and vague outline of the creature left Zhou Hongyu with only 3 possibilities. Whatever it was, such a massive creature was undoubtedly rare. Perhaps it had even produced a demon elixir. If he could seize this monster's demon elixir, wouldn't he have a chance at forming an elixir? If you don't take what heaven offers, you will suffer the consequences. So, without hesitation, Zhou Hongyu immediately declared, "Get over there immediately." Just then, the man from before shouted again, strangely, "Uncle Yu, that thing's gone." Startled, Zhou Hongyu quickly looked down. Sure enough, the giant figure was no longer visible in the vast black sand, as if everything had just been an illusion. Could it be magnetic light? Zhou Hongyu's mind raced, suddenly recalling a strange astronomical phenomenon from the legends of the desolate territory. Magnetic light is very similar to a mirage, but unlike a mirage, which is a reflection of space, magnetic light reflects the past. Due to the influence of the black sandstorm, the magnetic field in some areas of the desolate territory has occasionally experienced some unknown disturbance, causing magnetic light to project images of the past into the present. Get over there. Unwilling to return empty-handed, Zhou Hongyu finally gave the order. The flying boat suddenly veered off course, gliding rapidly towards the destination, close to the ground. The 20-mile journey passed in a flash. Zhou Hongyu carefully observed the outside world, his gaze passing over undulating stretches of sand, over clumps of wild thorns, and over patches of weathered rock. Yet, what he saw was the familiar side of the Cheyenne territory. This place seemed no different from any other land. Could I be seeing things? Zhou Hongyu wondered, puzzled. "Hey, Uncle Yu, look over there," a nearby voice exclaimed, startling him awake. Zhou Hongyu hurriedly followed the person's gaze. About 2 miles from the flying boat, a gravel slope had suddenly sunken, forming a massive crater. At its edge, a cave, nearly 10 feet high, lay at its edge. The entrance showed faint signs of human excavation. "Quick, get closer." Zhou Hongyu's face lit up with joy, and he immediately gave the order. Yes, and with a command, the flying boat quickly approached the cave. As they approached, the signs of human excavation were clearly visible. "You guys stay outside, I'll be back soon." Leaving these words behind, Zhou Hongyu flashed out of the flying boat and flew into the cave, disappearing in a flash. He quickly passed through the passage, spotting dusty stone chambers along the way. A surge of joy filled his heart. This was undoubtedly the remains of an immortal cultivator. The passage wasn't long. In just a few breaths, he was in a spacious stone chamber at the deepest point of the cave. A single glance at the chamber's scene made Zhou Hongyu's eyes light up in wonder, his breath catching. At that moment, on a stone bed at the far end of the chamber, a skeleton sat cross-legged, leaning against the wall. A gray storage bag fell from its arms. On the bed in front of it lay a chaotic mess of pill bottles. At its feet, a small blue sword lay halfway buried in the stone bed. The scene before him was simple. It was clear that a cultivator, countless years ago, had reached the end of his life and finally passed away in this very place. But this scene didn't attract the visitor's attention. Zhou Hongyu's gaze was now focused on the stone bed beneath. A round, smooth bead, the size of a human skull, emitting a faint glow, lay quietly there. Beside it, the remains of a shriveled insect, over 2 meters long, its body reduced to nothing but its skin, covered in golden rings. Tightly wrapped around the bead, its head opened its sharp, chrysanthemum-like maw, as if attempting to devour it. However, this unknown bead emanated a faint, yet remarkably powerful aura, as if intimidating the insect corpse and ultimately defeating it. Zhou Hongyu felt his heart tremble under this pressure, his heart suddenly overwhelmed, his words stuttering. "This is dragon power." Zhou Hongyu instantly stepped forward, scooped up the bead, and held it before his eyes. As expected, the moment his hands touched the bead, the dragon's aura became even more pronounced. Instinctively, waves of fear surged through his veins, like the bloodline of a higher being suppressing a lesser one. Zhou Hongyu was brimming with excitement, caressing the dragon ball. Gradually, however, the joy faded, replaced by a look of deep sorrow and regret. He sensed that the Dragon Ball's essence had, for some unknown reason, dissipated by a significant amount. Perhaps too much time had passed, or perhaps the previous owner had extracted its essence. Perhaps. Damn it, Zhao Sheng cursed, losing his composure. With a look of regret on his face, he put the Dragon Ball away and, with a wave of his hand, snatched up the insect skin. After examining it carefully for a moment, Zhao Sheng's expression suddenly erupted with joy. This is the Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm. Could that Dragon Ball be the legendary Mountain Dragon Pearl? Instantly, Zhao Sheng's mind raced, 1,000 thoughts racing through his mind. An hour later, the stone chamber was deserted, its bare surroundings devoid of life save for a pile of scattered bones on the bed. Just then, somewhere above the chamber's ceiling, the stone wall suddenly blurred and twisted, and a figure leaped down from it. He had no idea who this person was. It could only be Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng, holding a true shadow ball in his hand, gazed at the empty stone chamber, a sudden, profound smile breaking across his face. A month later, in Guangxia City, in Changshengfang, in a room somewhere in a mansion, Zhao Sheng was concocting a new blend of spiritual wine. Just then, Zhao Sheng arrived excitedly. Entering the room, he plopped down across from Zhao Sheng, his face brimming with excitement. "Brother Zhao, I'm going back to Hengayang's Zhao." Zhao Sheng's movements paused for a moment, then returned to normal. As he continued to mix the spirit wine, he casually asked, "When will you be back? I'll let you taste a new wine when you do." Zhao Sheng's face froze. He looked longingly at the wine cup in Zhao Sheng's hand and said regretfully, "I won't be back this time." "Oh," Zhao Sheng put down the cup. "Then we won't be able to see each other often. I finally found a drinking buddy like you, Brother Zhao." Now, sigh, who said not? Brother Zhao and I share the same interests. But it's a pity that family orders cannot be disobeyed, Zhao Sheng empathized. Moonspring is 5,000 miles away from Hengayang's Zhao. In other realms, it would only be a day or two's journey. But in the Xianhuang realm, black sandstorms blew thousands of miles of wind and sand, and the Gobi Desert was full of dangers. Even Foundation establishment cultivators were unwilling to take the risk of traveling through the black storm. Zhao Sheng pondered for a moment, then suddenly asked, "Does your family still accept guests?" Zhao Sheng was surprised and delighted to hear this, and immediately asked, "Brother Zhao, what do you mean by that? Could it be?" Zhao Sheng nodded, then suddenly sighed. "Alice. Thank you to the book friend, the clown, who wants to go to heaven for the 5,000 coin reward. Baimut thanked you." Chapter 135 Wanbao Auction. Alice. With a long sigh, Zhao Sheng said with a worried look on his face, "The Gyun sect is in turmoil right now, about to become the target of public criticism. I have to find a way out." Zhao Sheng was puzzled. "Brother Zhao, the Gyun sect is currently the most powerful in Central Continent and is flourishing. Why are you so pessimistic about it, Brother Zhao? Have you heard of blood atrophy?" "A little bit." Zhao Sheng then explained the relationship between blood atrophy and the Gyun sect in detail, not hiding the fact that the Blood Soul Sutra would shorten one's lifespan. Zhao Sheng was deeply shocked after hearing this, and only then did he understand why Zhao Sheng had sought a way out so early. "Brother Zhao, could it be that you have also practiced a Blood Soul Sutra?" he finally couldn't help but ask. Zhao Sheng smiled wryly and nodded. "Otherwise, with my inferior aptitude of 4 spiritual roots, how could I possibly cultivate to the 7th level of Foundation establishment? Haha. To put it bluntly, it's like trading my life for cultivation. I don't even know how many more years I have left." Zhao Sheng brushed back his completely white hair, a wry smile on his face. "Brother Zhao?" Zhao Zhonggai looked at his drinking buddy with deep sympathy. Zhao Sheng, on the other hand, was quite casual and asked directly, "Brother Zhao, just give me some straight talk. Will your Zhao family accept this guest?" "Of course. Brother Zhao is a great cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage. My family's cultivation surpasses Brother Zhao's by less than 5 fingers. Wouldn't I be a fool not to accept him?" Zhao Zhonggai quickly agreed. "I still have some trivial matters to attend to. In half a month, I'll visit you in Hengayang's Zhao, then I won't return to Hengayang's Zhao for now. I'll wait a month and then set off with Brother Zhao again," Zhao Zhonggai said with a look of delight. Zhao Sheng smiled faintly at this, not refusing the offer. Half a month later, after Zhao Sheng had finished dealing with Feng Guiyodeng, he and Zhao Zhonggai boarded the shuttle and departed from the Moon Spring Oasis. Hongjiangzhou and Moon Spring are approximately 8,000 miles apart. Unlike Moon Spring, which is only 30 miles in radius, Hongjiangzhou is roughly oval in shape, exceeding 1,000 miles in diameter. Its terrain is flat, the land is fertile, and the oasis has a population exceeding 10 million. Because it was the dry season, black sandstorms were rampant, so Zhao Sheng and his companions struggled to reach Hongjiangzhou after 17 days of arduous journey. Once inside Hongjiangzhou, the wind and sand subsided dramatically, and the shuttle's speed quickly increased to maximum speed. In just a quarter of an hour, they had traveled 500 or 600 miles and arrived at a bustling oasis city. Zhao Sheng is one of the rare above-ground cities in the Xianhuan territory. While small, it boasts a population of nearly 1 million, and more importantly, most of its inhabitants are surnamed Zhou. The Zhou family's ancestral home is located in the heart of Zhao Sheng's most prosperous district, and its headquarters occupies nearly half the city's area. Looking down from the sky, one could see a khaki-colored barrier over the Zhou family's ancestral home. Occasionally, streaks of light would emerge from the barrier, imbued with a faint, powerful aura of pressure. Under Zhou Hongyu's command, the flying boat easily passed through the protective barrier and landed in a large mansion nestled among the buildings below. From then on, things went smoothly. With Zhou Hongyu's guarantee and Zhao Sheng's clean record, the Zhou family was overjoyed to see such a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator willingly join them. After Zhao Sheng met with the family head, Zhou Ying's, he was immediately appointed the Zhou family's chief guest official. His spiritual stipend and other benefits were self-evident. Furthermore, the Zhou family specially allocated land for Zhao Sheng near Zhou Hongyu's residence and built a luxurious mansion according to Zhao Sheng's wishes. His appointment as chief guest official instantly made him a highly sought-after figure within the Zhou clan. The Zhou family's foundation establishment cultivators flocked to the house, offering precious gifts and treasures. Their conversations were often subtle or overt, attempts to win over and curry favor. Zhao Sheng mastered this art of wooing and currying favor, maneuvering between the various branches of the Zhou family. While appearing impartial and avoiding offending anyone, he subtly leaned toward the head of the family. It didn't take long for Zhao Sheng to establish himself within the Zhou family as a generous and kind-hearted individual. Remember, Zhao Sheng wasn't just a skilled winemaker, he was also a supremely skilled talisman master. In just 6 months, he had gifted no fewer than 20 second-level true talismans. Furthermore, a variety of unique spiritual wines were distributed without fail, not only to every foundation establishment cultivator in the Zhou family, but also to some of the younger key refiners. Faced with such a generous and approachable guest official, the Zhou family felt they had found a treasure. Some with darker motives secretly muttered that the chief guest official was childless and wouldn't live much longer. After his death, wouldn't all his belongings belong to the Zhou family? Consequently, the Zhou residence quickly became bustling with activity. Members of the Zhou family who had established their foundation brought their youngest members to the residence, hoping to be accepted as Zhao Sheng's disciples. This move was exactly what Zhao Sheng wanted, and he accepted everyone who came. The Zhou family was no fool. After Zhao Sheng joined the family, the head of the family, Zhou Ying's, immediately and secretly dispatched agents to Zhuanti City, Guiyun Sect, and Xianzhou Mountain to inquire about Zhao Sheng's background. 6 months later, the spies returned with their reports, and their story was exactly as Zhao Sheng had claimed. Haha. Zhao Sheng had been plotting to destroy the Zhou family for nearly 60 years. How could a mere spy possibly discover his flaws? From then on, while the Zhou family couldn't completely trust him, they would deliberately conceal anything from Zhao Sheng, save for some family secrets. Of course, Zhao Sheng handled the situation perfectly, adhering to his duties as a distinguished guest and not deliberately inquiring about the Zhou family's affairs. However, his reputation as a wine lover and even better at giving wine grew stronger in the Zhou family's hearts, and he and Zhou Hongyue eventually became known as the two wine-loving friends. A year later, in Yongjing, during the Great Yuan dynasty. On this day, the Wanbao auction house was bustling with people. Everywhere one looked, there were cultivators, rarely seen on ordinary days. Not a single mortal was present. Every year, in the first month of the rainy season in the Xianhuan territory, Yongjing holds the annual Wanbao trade fair. It attracts countless cultivators to Yongjing to participate in this rare event in the Xianhuan territory. The Wanbao auction house is the main venue for the fair. Rumor has it. No need for rumors. This Wanbao auction house is owned by the royal Mo family. They earn mountains of spirit stones every year. In the elegant dining room of a street-side restaurant, Zhao Sheng surveyed the bustling crowd below, his face filled with envy and jealousy as he spoke to Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng chuckled and said calmly, "The Mo family has a nascent soul patriarch at their helm. A mere Wanbao auction house is nothing to worry about. The entire Yong dynasty belongs to the Mo family. We can't possibly compete. Unless the Zhou family can produce a 1,000-year-old nascent soul." Zhao Zhongyu's eyes rolled at this, but he didn't continue. Zhao Sheng glanced at him briefly, a strange glint in his eyes. "By the way, why did the patriarch insist on dragging me to Yongjing? Don't you know I'm very busy?" Hearing his elder brother's complaints, Zhao Zhongyu suddenly smiled wryly and said, "Brother Zhao, you've spoiled your precious disciples to death. The patriarch couldn't stand it anymore, so he dragged you to Yongjing. And you can also be a secret agent for the family." "Secret agent? What secret agent? Is there something in the family that's inconvenient to auction?" Zhao Sheng asked with a faint glint in his eyes, his expression slightly curious. "That's right. Brother Zhao, please take a look." Zhao Zhongyu handed over a folded piece of paper. Zhao Sheng took it, opened it, and saw the 4 bold characters Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm written on the first line. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136, the finale. Zhao Sheng narrowed his eyes and looked down. Beneath the Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm lay a dozen other items. He sneered inwardly, knowing that aside from the Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm, the Zhou families must have, the others were merely deceptions. The Zhou family had indeed taken the bait, and his use of the Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm was well worth it. After reading through the paper, Zhao Sheng closed it and asked, "Do I have to take pictures of everything on here?" Zhao Zhongyu nodded, his expression very serious. "Yes. The first 3 treasures must be photographed, no matter the cost. As for the rest, Brother Zhao, you can handle them as you see fit. As long as they don't exceed 10,000 spirit stones, I'll try to get them. Well, since it's inconvenient for my family to show up, I'll take care of it for you, Brother Zhao, please." Zhao Zhongyu handed over a storage bag. Zhao Sheng took it, put it in his arms without even glancing at it, and nodded solemnly. 3 days later, in a quiet room, Zhao Sheng closed his eyes and calmed his breathing. At that moment, there was a sudden knock on the door, followed by a delicate voice. "Senior, the Chenyu auction is about to begin." "Got it." Zhao Sheng stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. He saw a maid, scantily clad but innocent-looking, standing respectfully beside him. "Lead the way." "Yes." The maid bowed and led Zhao Sheng outside. Zhao Sheng was currently located near the Wanbao Fang in Yongjing. Because the Wanbao auction was so large, in addition to the main venue, there were hundreds of smaller auctions. In addition to the open auctions, there were also secret auctions, exchange meetings, treasure appraisals, and other diverse trading methods. Zhao Sheng was going to participate in one of these smaller auctions. After passing through a corridor, the two came to a stone wall. The maid reached out and gently pressed on the stone wall. After a burst of white light, a portal of light appeared out of thin air. "Senior, please come in," the woman said, stepping back respectfully. Zhao Sheng nodded and walked in without a word, the woman following closely behind. After the two of them entered, the light gate automatically vanished, and the outside returned to a stone wall. The passage was short, with a faint flicker of white light at the end. Zhao Sheng silently and slowly walked forward. After turning a corner, a stone door suddenly appeared before him. Outside the stone door stood a middle-aged man of dignified appearance, dressed in sky-blue Confucian attire. Upon seeing Zhao Sheng, he immediately beamed and said, "My name is Mo Yunji. Welcome to this auction, fellow Taoist. Xiaoli, please be sure to treat us well. If you neglect me, I will hold you accountable later." The middle-aged man surnamed Mo was unusually polite to Zhao Sheng, then gave a solemn instruction to the maid. "As you command, my lord," the maid replied, her face pale with fear, seemingly terrified. Zhao Sheng's eyes flickered with a strange look, but he said nothing. He nodded to Mo Yunji and walked through the stone door. Inside the gate was a magnificent hall. In the middle was a high platform, surrounded by tables and chairs, most of which were already occupied. But when Zhao Sheng took in the situation in the hall, a strange look appeared on his face. Aside from 2 female cultivators sitting alone, the male cultivators on the other chairs were all leaning against a maid. Although these maids were mortals, they were all young, beautiful, and had extraordinary looks. Just as Zhao Sheng was stunned, a fragrant breeze suddenly blew beside him, and a soft, delicate body trembled slightly and pressed against him. Zhao Sheng frowned slightly and dodged the woman's touch. Seeing this, the maid bit her lip lightly, looking pitiful. Zhao Sheng didn't care what she thought. At this time, he was looking around at the others calmly. Among the immortal cultivators sitting there, most of them had an aura that was intermittent, making it difficult to see through. It was obvious that they were foundation-building cultivators. The remaining cultivation levels were at least at the great perfection of key refining. Zhao Sheng saw this, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. Then he found an empty chair and sat down with his arms and legs spread wide open as if nothing had happened. The waitress also followed, standing timidly behind him. She wanted to come forward several times but didn't dare to move. Most people were indifferent to his arrival, but a few gave Zhao Sheng a flattering smile. Apart from anything else, the unfathomable aura alone was enough to deserve their kind treatment. Zhao Sheng's face was calm, and he did not respond to the flattery of the people around him, but just waited silently. After a while, 5 or 6 more cultivators with very different temperaments entered the hall, each accompanied by a young and beautiful maid. Seeing all this, Zhao Sheng's face remained normal, but he was slightly surprised. The auction was not large in scale, but among the participants, he couldn't see through the realm of most of them. It seemed that this auction was going to be fun. After a while, the hall was full of people. At this moment, Mo Yanji walked up to the podium with a beaming smile. He waved to the cultivators below and announced, "Today's Chenyi auction is hosted by me. It's truly an honor to have nearly 100 fellow cultivators in attendance." After these opening remarks, he immediately got down to business. Enough small talk, this auction officially begins. A flash of light followed, and several items suddenly appeared before Mo Yanji, a bottle of second-grade Yunling pill, a Daong purple gold tong bao, and a bundle of 10 heart-building incense sticks. He presented each item in detail, moving many of the cultivators present with a touch of surprise. Clearly, these items were truly rare. Zhao Sheng, however, showed no interest in these treasures. While they might be valuable to him, they were of no use to him. He didn't have many more years to live. Mo Yanji was a qualified auctioneer, and his skillful rhetoric heightened the atmosphere at the auction. Every time he put a treasure up for auction, it would cause a crowd to scramble for it. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the auction was coming to an end. When a 700-year-old exotic bee fruit was auctioned off, Mo Yanji's face straightened and he said loudly, "Attention, fellow practitioners. The ordinary items have been auctioned off. Now it's time for the 3 finale treasures to be presented." As soon as he finished speaking, the scene below suddenly became solemn. All the cultivators sat up straight, staring at Mo Yanji with sharp eyes. Zhao Sheng looked around and nodded secretly, knowing that some of the people present came specifically for the golden ring spirit earthworm, while others, like him, had a mission to complete. At this moment, Mo Yanji suddenly had a yellow spirit insect bag in his hand. The treasure below is a rare spirit insect. This insect is called the golden ring spirit earthworm. Speaking of the golden ring spirit earthworm, we have to mention an ancient dragon species that has long been extinct. Have you ever heard of the name of the mountain dragon? Mo Yanji looked at the crowd below with full confidence. As soon as the voice fell, someone below suddenly exclaimed, "Mountain dragon? But that, immortal dragon that can rival the nascent soul." Zhao Sheng looked at the person who spoke with a strange expression, and there were many cultivators with the same movements and expressions as him. Noticing this situation, Zhao Sheng couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth slightly. Chapter 137, Identifying Friend and Foe and Continuously Baiting. Haha, confirmed. Aside from a few clueless clubbers, everyone else was interested. This fellow Taoist is right. The golden ring spirit earthworm is. Mo Yanji immediately detailed the relationship between the golden ring spirit earthworm and the mountain dragon, emphasizing the magical properties of the golden ring spirit earthworm, which could potentially revert to their ancestral form. Of course, he also mentioned other properties of the golden ring spirit earthworm that could improve spiritual fields. But no one paid attention to what he said next. Everyone stared eagerly, not only at the golden ring spirit earthworm in Mo Yanji's hand, but also at the other competitors. Mo Yunji observed their expressions, knowing that the timing was almost right, and poured his hand over. In a flash of light, a single golden ring spirit earthworm suddenly appeared on the platform, writhing and entangled. 2 feet long. A golden ring spirit earthworm over 2 feet long. Everyone in the room suddenly became serious, their eyes aglow with excitement. Zhao Sheng was secretly puzzled. He had originally taken out a whole nest, but now there was only one left. However, he thought again and understood. Needless to say, the Mo family must have snatched it up early. That's good, it shows the Mo family values the golden ring spirit earthworm very much, Zhao Sheng thought to himself in delight. He was just thinking when Mo Yunji finished his words, the starting price for this golden ring spirit earthworm is 5,000 spirit stones, and each bid must be no less than 100. Bids please. Before he finished speaking, he heard a flurry of shouts from the audience, 6,000, 7,000, 10,000, wow. In a blink of an eye, the auction price had surpassed 10,000. Some might have thought this price was a peak, but they didn't know it was just the beginning. 12,000, 15,000, 20,000, in the blink of an eye, the price had risen another 20,000, and the rate of increase continued unabated. 21,000, 22,000, 30,000, only after passing the 30,000 mark did the number of bidders decrease by half. Although this price was already high, enough to exchange for a foundation establishment pill, there were still 7 or 8 people at the scene who kept raising the price. Undoubtedly, these people all had powerful backers. But Zhao Sheng wasn't among them. In fact, he hadn't even mentioned a single bid from the beginning until now. He wasn't the only one. Zhao Sheng noticed 3 others like him, all sitting there watching with composure. Clearly, the big buyer hadn't appeared yet. Zhao Sheng secretly memorized their faces. By then, the bid had reached 33,000 spirit stones. The bidding slowed considerably, often taking 2 or 3 breaths after someone finished bidding before someone else would raise the price. Seeing this, Zhao Sheng chuckled and decisively uttered 2 words, 60,000. With that price, everyone's gazes instantly turned to Zhao Sheng, their expressions varying, some tinged with malice and embarrassment. This guy's clearly here to mess things up, damn it. He doubled the price in one fell swoop. You're rich, you're so arrogant. Don't let me run into him again. Mo Yunji was overjoyed and quickly repeated, this fellow Taoist offered 60,000. Hasn't anyone offered a higher price? If, he hadn't even finished his words when he was silenced by a thunderous laugh. Haha. Hu Hong, I'm joining in the fun, 70,000. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a burly old man with broad ears and golden hair sitting there with a sword in his hand. Seeing his dazzling golden hair, someone exclaimed in surprise, the sleeping lion Hua family, the imperial family of the great Yang dynasty was supreme. Second only to the Mo family were the 4 great Jinden families, known as lion, tiger, owl, and wolf. The sleeping lion Hua family was the leader of these 4 families, known for having produced a nascent soul ancestor 2,000 years ago. Zhao Sheng's Zhou family, the last of the 4, was known as the coyote. Despite the rather unfashionable name, the coyote is a major threat to the Xianhuan territory, renowned for its cunning and unity. The word tu, earth, is a homophone for poison, drug. In the Zhou family's early years, they were known for their ruthless tactics, utterly annihilating their enemies. Over the past 200 years, the Zhou family's style has softened, gradually reducing their foes, thus evolving from poison wolves to coyote. 80,000. Hu Hong had just finished his shout when Zhao Sheng immediately added 10,000. After all, the Zhou family was paying for it, so why not take advantage? Hu Hong sat up straight, his eyes piercing Zhao Sheng's face. Unfortunately, Zhao Sheng had already adopted a new look, so no one recognized him. 81,000, 82,000. Just then, 2 more people suddenly intervened. Zhao Sheng turned around and saw that the bids were from none other than the 2 who had remained silent. Hu Hong clearly knew them, his lips moved rapidly, as if he were communicating in secret. 90,000. Zhao Sheng ignored all this and immediately raised the price to 90,000. 2 breaths later, Hu Hong seemed to have dealt with both men, then resolutely shouted, 100,000, 100 and 100,000. Zhao Sheng waved his hand nonchalantly. Hu Hong wanted to compete with Zhao Sheng in thickness or length? He wasn't even close. Zhao Sheng didn't hesitate to spend the Zhou family's spirit stones. Every time Hu Hong raised the price, he immediately followed suit, adding at least 10,000. He kept growing all the way to 150,000, until Hu Hong's hair stood on end, furious. Zhao Sheng remained calm and composed. Hu Hong, furious, laughed. This fellow Taoist is so arrogant. Do you dare to tell me your name? Haha. Zhao Sheng smiled faintly. Hu Hong's expression froze, and he stood up on the spot, laughing angrily. Very well. This golden ring spirit earthworm will be given to you today. With that, he gave Zhao Sheng a deep look and turned to leave. With no competition, Zhao Sheng ultimately secured a golden ring spirit earthworm for a whopping 150,000 spirit stones. After the auction, Zhao Sheng quickly left the auction house and secretly approached Zhou Hongyu. Upon learning that he had spent 150,000 spirit stones on the golden ring spirit earthworm, Zhou Hongyu remained unfazed. Seeing him like this, Zhao Sheng wondered if there were other Zhou family agents present. Of course, Zhao Sheng would never ask such a foolish question. He simply took note. The Zhou family didn't trust him as much as he appeared. Over the next month, Zhao Sheng attended numerous auctions, some for the Zhou family, others to conceal his involvement. While nominally attending auctions, he was actually trying to distance himself from the Zhou family, engaging in covert activities. For example, he went to the auction house to settle spirit stone transactions. During the settlement, a member of the Mo family, who had reached the great perfection of foundation establishment, approached Zhao Sheng. He offered a subtle apology, then offered to waive his commission and purchase the remaining spirit earthworms for the same 150,000. Zhao Sheng readily accepted the offer. You'd be a fool not to agree. Selling one thing twice the price, twice the joy. Zhao Sheng was delighted by the sudden and unexpected increase in his fortune, but he didn't forget his original purpose in coming to Yongjing. The day before the Wanbei auction, the Black Ice platform at Yongjing Wubingfang suddenly received a piece of intelligence, carried by a true shadow ball. Chapter 138 Revenge is like cooking. The Black Ice platform was a secret service organization within the Great Yang dynasty, managed exclusively by members of the Imperial Mo family. Subsequently, a highly secret intelligence report was quickly relayed to the Mo family's most powerful leaders. Someone is suspected of having found a mountain dragon pearl. But the portrait has been deliberately obliterated. This incident alarmed even the long-absent Mo family patriarch, who issued an edict, find him at all costs. This he might refer to the person who found the pearl, or the mysterious individual who sent the information, or perhaps the dragon pearl itself. It didn't matter. The important thing was that the Mo family had moved. This move immediately alarmed the four great giant clans of the Great Yang dynasty, as well as all the major and minor factions of the Great Yang dynasty. No one knew the reason for the Mo family's massive mobilization. It seemed the Mo family was searching for something, someone, something, or something else entirely. Aside from the few members of the Mo family and the instigator, the other factions were completely bewildered. Zhao Sheng had no intention of exposing Zhou Hongyu at this point. In his view, destroying a giant family was an extremely difficult task, not something that could be accomplished overnight. Destroying the Zhou family was a systematic project, requiring a step-by-step approach. It was like cooking. First, heat the oil in a wok, then add the seasonings and ingredients, stir-fry repeatedly, then add salt. Once the cooking was done, remove from the wok. If the true shadow ball was the seasoning, then the dragon ball was the ingredient. The wok had already been heated, and the oil was boiling. Now it was time to stir-fry. Once the Mo family had made a big fuss about this, Zhao Sheng would secretly add a handful of crucial salt, golden ring spirit earthworm. Once the cooking was done, Zhou Hongyu could officially make his debut. There was also a crucial timing factor, which we'll leave aside for now. As soon as the Wanbei auction concluded, Zhao Sheng didn't linger, but immediately returned to Hongyang's house with the Zhou family. Back in Zhaocheng, Zhao Sheng resumed his usual routine, spending his days brewing wine or diligently teaching his apprentice how to draw talismans. He stopped cultivating on weekdays, often inviting others to enjoy wine and chat, seemingly enjoying his retirement. Every now and then, Zhao Sheng would give out some spiritual wine for tasting. He didn't choose the recipients, he'd simply give a jar to anyone he liked. As a result, within just a year or two, Zhao Sheng's reputation within the Zhou family grew, and everyone praised him. As his trust grew, Zhao Sheng gradually gained access to family secrets. Meanwhile, the Zhou family's scripture library was gradually opened to Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng's actions over the past few years had clearly shown that he was nearing death and had become more open to the world. As the saying goes, attitude is everything. The Zhou family's leaders observed Zhao Sheng's behavior, never imagining that this seemingly benevolent, dying old man was secretly plotting to overthrow the Zhou family. Time flew by, and 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. The third floor of the Zhou family sutra library is dedicated to alchemy. Zhao Sheng sat cross-legged behind a low table, slowly flipping through a scroll titled The First Anecdote of Water-Refined Elixirs. He had stumbled upon this secret alchemy scroll 2 days earlier. Ever since, Zhao Sheng reveled in it as if it were a treasure, and he hasn't left the sutra library, repeatedly reading through it ever since. In the world of immortal cultivation, alchemy is mostly done through fire, with water refining being extremely rare. While fire refining focuses on refining, calcining the spiritual herbs to extract their essence and finally fuse them, water refining focuses on conception. Spiritual water is used to simmer and decompose the spiritual herbs, allowing the essence to blend into the water, and finally, the elixir is slowly formed. Both fire and water refining have their pros and cons, but why is water refining so rarely heard of in the world of immortal cultivation? The key drawback is that water refining is incredibly slow. A single batch can take months, and even over a year. Fire refining, on the other hand, is much faster, rarely taking more than a month. A single batch can usually be completed in 3 to 5 days, and occasionally 7 or 8. Based solely on efficiency, the water-refined elixir-making method has long been obsolete. However, the water-refined method has survived to this day and remains a uniquely skilled art. Elixirs refined using the elixir-making method are not only more refined but also contain minimal toxins. Most importantly, the success rate is far higher than fire-refined elixirs. Therefore, water-refined elixir making offers an unparalleled advantage in refining high-level elixirs. Therefore, while the water-refined elixir method has not been lost, it has been secretly monopolized and blocked by major forces in the cultivation world, making it rarely known to ordinary cultivators. After turning the last page, Zhao Sheng closed his eyes and silently reviewed it several times. Feeling he had thoroughly absorbed all the content, he opened his eyes and tossed the elixir book with a flick of his hand. Like a bird, it soared over a distance of 7 or 8 feet before landing with uncanny precision on its shelf. At this moment, Zhao Sheng extended his hand, and an ancient tome suddenly flew from the shelf, landing directly in his hand. He then flipped open the tome and began to peruse it silently. 5 days later, a ray of spiritual light suddenly flew from downstairs, landing on Zhao Sheng's desk and transforming into a J token. Is it time again? Zhao Sheng sighed, picked up the token, returned the ancient book to its place, and headed downstairs. As he exited the sutra repository, he spotted a dashing young man in yellow robes guarding the door. Master, Zhao Sheng sighed inwardly as he watched the handsome young man, his face full of respect, run up to him. This young man's name was Zhou Qingwu, the most insightful and astute of his young apprentices. Furthermore, Zhou Qingwu possessed a rare dual spiritual root talent, making him the most gifted of his generation within the Zhou family. If he hadn't been born into the Zhou family, Zhao Sheng might have taken him in as his successor. What a shame. You're a Zhou, Zhao Sheng sighed, his face stern, but he said, Qingwu, why are you here at the sutra repository if you're not doing your homework? Hearing the master's scolding, Zhou Qingwu's eyes rolled, and he immediately argued, Master, you misunderstood. I came to the sutra library to look for some experiences of my predecessors, and I just happened to meet you this time. It's not good for the disciple to be too smart. Zhao Sheng couldn't do anything about him for a while, and couldn't help but frown. Even so, go in quickly. Oh, Zhou Qingwu responded honestly, then turned around and slipped into the sutra library. Looking at the young figure disappearing from the door, Zhao Sheng's eyes flickered a few times, and then his body turned into a long rainbow, flying away at high speed. 2 days later, in a secret room in the mansion, Zhao Sheng practiced 9 turns of energy to restore the spiritual power in his Danshan to its peak state. After finishing the exercise, he thought about it, and the Book of 100 Worlds in the depths of his soul sea instantly emerged in his mind. The 4th page of the book was naturally turned out, and the personal data panel followed. Name, Zhao Chong, Zhao Sheng, lifespan, 130/143 realm, 7th level of foundation building occupation, 2nd level talisman master constitution, 4 spiritual roots, yellow level, primary self-healing, mortal level, talents, spiritual smell, yellow level, bullet time, yellow level, hand of rock, mortal level, skills, spells, talisman making. Looking at the lifespan column, Zhao Sheng's expression was complex. He pondered for a moment and whispered to himself, there are still a dozen years left, but that's enough. The dish is almost done now, time to add salt and serve. A moment later, a message appeared before Zhou Ying's, the head of the Zhou family. Opening it, a flicker of confusion crossed Zhou Ying's face, and he thought, guest Zhao, why do you want to see me? Although puzzled, Zhou Ying's didn't dare to neglect it and immediately ordered his servant, please invite guest Zhao in. The servant withdrew. He thanked the book friend blowing away story for the 1,500 coin reward. Baimei expressed his gratitude. Chapter 139, Walking into Trap. A little later, Zhao Sheng entered the living room and met Zhou Ying's. After exchanging pleasantries, Zhou Ying's got straight to the point, asking, fellow Taoist Zhao, what brings you here today? Zhao Sheng first examined Zhou Ying's. Zhou Ying's possessed a dignified appearance, his eyes a pair of molten gold, a commanding presence even without anger. Coupled with his profound cultivation, having reached the great perfection of the foundation establishment stage, he appeared as if towering over an abyss, unfathomable. Although Zhao Sheng had a grudge against the Zhou family, he couldn't help but secretly praise them. This man is worthy of being the one who controls this part of the world. He has the spirit of a hero. Zhao Sheng bowed and said, Brother Zhou, I'm here to say goodbye to you. Zhou Ying's eyes fixed. Why do you say that, Brother Zhao? Could it be that my Zhou family has done you wrong? Zhao Sheng smiled and waved his hand. Brother Zhou, you misunderstood. The Zhou family treats me like a distinguished guest, and I'm deeply touched. I'm not here to resign my position as a guest official, but to return to my hometown to visit old friends. It won't be long, at most a year or two. Zhou Ying's felt relieved and said with a smile, I see. That's reassuring. When you leave for your homeland, I'll definitely give you a generous gift. Zhao Sheng immediately declined. No need. I appreciate your kindness, Brother Zhou. But the Zhou family's spiritual stipend for me is already generous enough. There's no need to add to it. Otherwise, I'll feel uneasy, Zhou Ying's insisted, but Zhao Sheng repeatedly declined. After several rounds, Zhou Ying's, impressed by Zhao Sheng's sincerity and deeply satisfied with his gesture, gave up. After a brief chat, Zhao Sheng offered his leave. Zhou Ying's, preoccupied with his duties, didn't try to persuade him to stay. A moment later, Zhou Ying's personally escorted Zhao Sheng to the door, watched him soar away on his sword, and then returned to his residence. 3 days later, Zhao Sheng bid farewell to Zhou Hongyu and the others, then sailed away on his cloud boat from Zhaocheng. After crossing the border of Hongyang's Hao, the cloud boat suddenly made a sharp turn, traversing a swirling sandstorm, and trudged southeast. That was Yongjing. Wanbaofang. The Wanbao auction house was enormous, encompassing numerous buildings that occupied most of Wanbaofang. Nearly 100 registration offices alone, responsible for accepting cultivators' bids, formed a treasure street. Jibao Street sees a bustling daily flow of people, the streets bustling with activity, and the shops lining the street buzzing with activity. Arriving at Jibao Street, Zhao Sheng sought out the most luxuriously decorated shop and walked in. Upon entering, a quick-witted servant immediately ran up to him, smiling. Senior, do you have a treasure to auction? Zhao Sheng hummed, then said, yes, I'm looking to auction a spiritual artifact. Find me a second-level appraiser. At the Wanbao auction house, appraisers specialize in identifying the authenticity of treasures and estimating their prices. Appraisers are divided into several levels, depending on the value of the item. A second-level appraiser specializes in second-level treasures, such as elixirs, talismans, spiritual artifacts, and magic arrays. Hearing it was a spiritual artifact, the servant, fearless, led Zhao Sheng into the backyard and into an elegant room. Behind a desk in the north corner of the room sat a vigorous, sharp-eyed old man. After the servant reported the situation and left, the old man's eyes flickered. He looked at Zhao Sheng, who had sat down, and asked, Senior, may I have a look at the spiritual artifact you're auctioning? Zhao Sheng nodded, removed a small, dark seal from his storage bag, and placed it on the table. The Xiaoyu seal was a low-grade spiritual artifact. Since Zhao Sheng's advancement to the late foundation establishment stage, it had become less useful. Zhao Sheng had come to Anbaofang to use the seal as a prop and also to sell it. Some might have guessed that Zhao Sheng's primary purpose for coming here today wasn't to auction the treasure, but to show off, to attract attention. He had deliberately changed back to his attire and appearance from 2 years ago. A moment later, the treasure appraiser confirmed the seal's grade and condition, and also gave an estimated price. Zhao Sheng nodded nonchalantly, agreeing to send the seal to auction. After the two men finalized the auction details, Zhao Sheng left the shop. He didn't stay long and quickly left Jibao Street. The next day, Zhao Sheng suddenly appeared at an auction and bought most of the items, making quite a splash. 2 days later, he appeared on Jibao Street again, entering and exiting several stores, buying 3 or 4 treasures. 5 days later, a special auction for talismans ended, and Zhao Sheng walked out of the venue. After taking a few steps, he suddenly groaned, his body froze, and he stopped dead in his tracks. Zhao Sheng was startled and looked up. A dozen steps away, a bald old man smoking a pipe was looking at him with a smile. Feeling the spiritual power within him being suppressed by a powerful pressure, Zhao Sheng was not afraid but happy, thinking to himself, it's not slow. Although he had walked into a trap, he still had to act when it was necessary. Zhao Sheng stared at the unfamiliar giant's Henren with a look of fear, forcing himself to remain calm. Master, I've never met you before. I wonder how I might have offended you. The bald old man took a few puffs from his cigarette, exhaling a purple smoke ring. His expression was calm. You haven't offended me. Someone wants to see you, but they're afraid you'll run away, so they've asked me to come. Will you go willingly? Or will you go after being beaten half to death? Zhao Sheng couldn't help but smile bitterly, then nodded knowingly. I'll follow you. Well, you're smart. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Sheng felt his body lighten. The sound of wind whistled in his ears, and his vision was filled with purple smoke. After a while, the smoke dissipated, revealing the outside world. He perked up. The building before him was very familiar, the black ice terrace of the 5 Soldiers Square. A moment later, Zhao Sheng was led to a dark, enclosed underground chamber, where no sunlight could reach. At that moment, an ordinary middle-aged man, seemingly unremarkable in a crowd, was in the secret room. Zhao Sheng's eyes twitched as he gazed at the dark-clad figure. He exuded a murderous aura unlike anything he had ever seen before. More importantly, he was a true giant's Henren. The void behind him was a blanket of absolute darkness, impervious even to light. And within this darkness, a dense sea of blood-red eyes, each the size of a glass bead, stared intently at him, their countless gazes filled with an adulterated murderous intent. Just as Zhao Sheng was enveloped by the boundless murderous intent, his body instinctively trembling slightly, the middle-aged man spoke, name, just 2 words, but they resonated with Zhao Sheng's ears like thundering swords and wrathful cavalry, a rich, bloody scent emanating from his voice. Instantly, the blood-red eyes within the giant vision shone brightly, and an unknown terror suddenly descended upon him. In that instant, Zhao Sheng instinctively knew he could not lie to this man. Zhao Tekin, thanks to book friend 2021020212136222682 for the 1,500 coin reward. Baimuyi thanks you. Chapter 140, Unsolvable Conspiracy. Zhao's Hicken, Zhao Sheng replied flatly. Huh? He wasn't lying. This surprised Mo Shengxuan, leader of the Black Ice platform. He'd expected more effort, but he was surprisingly understanding. 2 years ago, did you photograph a golden-ringed spirit earthworm? Mo Shengxuan's voice was icy, even the tone of his voice seemed frozen, unchanged from before. Zhao Sheng feigned a perkiness and nodded immediately. Yes, I did photograph a golden-ringed spirit earthworm for someone else. Someone else? Mo Shengxuan paused, his mind racing. Could this person not be the real owner? And could there be another owner behind the Dragon Ball? Ever since the ancestors' decree, the Mo family had mobilized all their forces, both overt and covert, to search for this rare Dragon Ball. Over the course of 2 years, they had nearly turned Daeong upside down. However, over those 2 years, the Mo family had uncovered countless plausible leads, but ultimately, none of them were connected to the Dragon Ball. After thorough screening and verification, only a few unverified leads remained. The most crucial one was that 2 years ago, at the Wanbao auction, a mysterious individual had purchased a golden-ringed spirit earthworm for the exorbitant price of 150,000 yuan. Consequently, the Black Ice platform and all branches of the Mo family launched a full-scale search for this mysterious individual, a search that lasted 2 years. Fortunately, the Black Ice platform ultimately outmaneuvered the individual, being the first to discover his whereabouts within a few days of his reappearance and promptly apprehending him. Because the matter was of grave importance, Mo Shangsun personally conducted the interrogation. Unexpectedly, this interrogation actually yielded a crucial clue. Mo Shangsun's expression was stern, his tone icy. "Who is this other person you're referring to?" As soon as he finished speaking, his blood-red eyes within the darkness suddenly shone with a chilling, cold light, radiating upon Zhao Sheng. Instantly, Zhao Sheng felt his internal organs freeze, his blood coagulating into ice, and an incomparably chilling chill surged into his soul. Zhao Sheng was utterly pale, his eyebrows, beard, and hair suddenly covered in layers of frost. Seeing this, Mo Shangsun immediately realized that his emotions had been volatile, and he had inadvertently revealed a hint of his golden core true meaning. Cough, he coughed lightly, instantly suppressing his golden core true meaning. Whoosh, Zhao Sheng spat out a mouthful of ice, and his spiritual energy rapidly flowed through his limbs, dispelling the lingering coldness within him. As the frost on his face gradually dissipated, he felt a surge of horror. Before he'd actually faced a golden core true master, he had never imagined a gap between foundation establishment and golden core could be so vast. No wonder there's an old saying in the world of immortal cultivation, everyone below the golden core stage is an ant. Zhao Sheng had previously thought it was an exaggeration, but now it seemed true. Mo Shangsun then repeated his previous question. "Who are you referring to as someone else?" Zhao Sheng, recovering, immediately gave his prepared answer. "Master, it's the Zhou family of Hongyang's Hao, the Zhou family of Hongyang's Hao." Mo Shangsun's gaze narrowed, the void true eyes behind him telling him the man wasn't lying. Could it be that the Dragon Ball has also fallen into the hands of the Zhou family? A thought flashed through Mo Shangsun's mind, but his professional instinct for suspicion made him instinctively suspicious of Zhao Sheng. This man was being too cooperative. Something was amiss. Thinking of this, Mo Shangsun immediately asked, "What's your relationship with the Zhou family?" "I'm a guest official of the Zhou family." "No lie, as a guest official, loyalty is my duty." "Why didn't you conceal this for the Zhou family? The Black Ice platform's prestige is known to everyone in Daong. Lying or concealing anything is pointless. The most important thing is that I have a deep-seated feud with the Zhou family." "No lie." Hearing this, Mo Shangsun's body trembled, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. He hadn't expected that after all his interrogation, he would finally reach such a conclusion. "You have a grudge against the Zhou family?" "Yes." Back then, Zhao Sheng unloaded his carefully prepared story. From beginning to end, he remained completely calm and composed, for he hadn't lied at all. He simply focused on the Wang family's annihilation at the hands of the Zhou family and his family's escape to Xianzhou Mountain. He then deliberately omitted certain details, diverting the conversation to focus on his admission to the Guian sect, his entry into the Xianzhou territory, and his infiltration into the Zhou family. Zhao Sheng's editing skills were exceptionally skillful. Mo Shangsun, with his excessive faith in the power of his Dongsa true eyes, hadn't noticed the maneuvering. Zhao Sheng had originally intended to leverage the Mo family's power to destroy the Zhou family. Despite the unexpected incident involving Mo Shangsun, the overall course of events was under his control. Zhao Sheng wasn't afraid of being discovered. By this point, the entire situation had become a conspiracy. Why wait 2 years to launch this plan? As mentioned earlier, time was crucial. 2 years had passed, and the final essence of the Dragon Ball must have been absorbed by the Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm. It was hard to say whether the Dragon Ball still existed. If it were gone, the Zhou family would be left with nothing to defend themselves. Even if the Dragon Ball still existed, where had its essence gone? The Zhou family might argue that most of its essence had dissipated before they obtained it. But would the Mo family believe that? Regardless of whether the Zhou family's claims were true, they wouldn't. Because the Mo family couldn't afford the gamble, nor did they dare. If the Zhou family ancestor could cultivate a mountain dragon and sign a symbiotic contract, with a lifespan of 2,000 years, even a fool as a pig could, through sheer effort, produce a nascent soul ancestor. But the Mo family ancestor's lifespan had already exceeded 2,000 years, and he wouldn't live for more than a few hundred years. When the Mo family ancestor passed away, and the Zhou family produced a nascent soul ancestor, it was easy to imagine what would happen to the Great Yuan dynasty. Just as the Mo family had seized the great Yang dynasty from the dormant Hua family over 2,000 years ago, the Zhou family would replicate their success. But by then, the Mo family might not have the same extraordinary luck as the Hua family. Although the Hua family had fallen from power, they had the covert support of a major demonic sect, ultimately forcing the Mo family to let them go. From the day the Zhou family obtained the Dragon Ball, no matter how they expressed their stance, they would become a thorn in the Mo family's side. As long as the Zhou family existed, the Mo family would feel a thorn in their side, and a sense of unease. The reason lay in the existence of the mountain dragon, a possible or even unfounded entity. Of course, Mo Shangxun only suspected the Zhou family had found the Dragon Ball and lacked firm evidence. However, the evidence would soon emerge. Before Zhao Sheng appeared in Yongjing, he had already made 2 copies of the video footage, secretly sending one to the Hua family and the remaining copy to Immortal. If Zhao Sheng were ultimately unable to leave, this mortal would proactively deliver the true Shadow Ball to the Black Ice platform in 2 weeks. After Zhao Sheng recounted his deep-seated hatred for the Zhou family, he then revealed some of the manipulations he had perpetrated against them. Finally, he vowed that if he could destroy the Zhou family, he would be willing to become the 6th son, even at the cost of his own life. Mo Shangxun listened silently to Zhao Sheng's statement, his opinion of him rising to higher esteem. The greatest terror in the world is death. Without immense courage, few would dare to die to prove their resolve. Chapter 141 5 Elements and 3 Envoys. Zhao Sheng's excessive cooperation allowed Mo Shangxun to effortlessly grasp the truth of the matter. Therefore, Mo Shangxun didn't embarrass Zhao Sheng, simply placing a restraint on his danshan. Zhao Sheng was then taken to a courtyard for custody, without even a cell. For the next 2 weeks, Zhao Sheng seemed forgotten. Aside from a deaf mute who brought him food daily, no one came to visit him. Zhao Sheng appeared anxious, but inside, he was remarkably calm. Because that day was almost here. 5 days later, Zhao Sheng was finally remembered. That day, 2 people suddenly arrived in the courtyard. After a moment, Zhao Sheng silently followed them out of the courtyard. He was quickly taken back to the Black Ice Terrace, where he met Mo Shangxun again. However, this time, Mo Shangxun wasn't the only one there. 3 others stood behind him, curiously observing him. Zhao Sheng silently lowered his head, hands clasped in his arms, not giving him much of a once-over. Mo Shangxun looked at Zhao Sheng but didn't speak immediately. Just the day before, the Dragon Ball incident had suddenly made a significant breakthrough, and the truth had finally been revealed. The Dragon Ball had indeed fallen into the hands of the Zhou family. The person who had picked it up was Zhou Honggao, a foundation establishment cultivator of the Zhou family. After a moment's hesitation, Mo Shangxun suddenly asked, "Zhao Zikan, if I were to send you back to the Zhou family to infiltrate, would you be willing?" "Yes. Absolutely," Zhao Sheng nodded, his spirits rising. Mo Shangxun was extremely pleased with Zhao Sheng's performance. With a wave of his hand, the 3 people behind him stepped forward, standing opposite Zhao Sheng, their expressions shifting. Mo Shangxun then addressed Zhao Sheng, "To better utilize your role, I have specially assigned 3 5 elements to assist you." He then leaned over and instructed the 3, "Please introduce yourselves." "Yes, sir." As soon as he finished speaking, one of the 3 men solemnly accepted the order and stepped out. Only then did Zhao Sheng look up and carefully examine the 3 men before him. The first figure to emerge was clad in mysterious gold spiritual armor, his face obscured by a helmet. Countless golden runes were engraved on the armor, radiating tiny glints of light. He sat, stood, and walked as if measured with a ruler, his movements impeccably precise, like a mechanical puppet. Metal is the best form of martial arts. The armored figure's voice was emotionless, uttering the 3 words mechanically. Then, ignoring Zhao Sheng's reaction, he turned and returned to his original position, his posture and movements remarkably unchanged from before. Zhao Sheng frowned at this. At that moment, an elderly figure with chicken skin and white hair approached and said in a hoarse voice, "Fellow Taoist Zhao, don't take it to heart. Wu Daisy has always been so dull and boring." Zhao Sheng looked at the newcomer. He was no more than 5 feet tall, his face covered in wrinkles enough to snuff out a fly, and the exposed skin was as dry as rotten wood. He was hunched over, yet dressed in a long, gray-black robe that dragged on the ground, making one wonder if he would trip if he walked any faster. Zhao Sheng bowed to the man and said with a smile, "May I ask your name, fellow Taoist?" "My surname is Yi, and my given name is Ying." I am currently an Earth Elementary Sage. My cultivation is mediocre. Having just reached the 9th level of Foundation Establishment, the old man returned the greeting formally and said casually. Zhao Sheng was shocked. This old man was so old, yet he had already achieved the ultimate Foundation Establishment stage. It really is true that appearances cannot be judged by appearances. My name is Zhao Sheng, nice to meet you, fellow Taoist he. I'm new here, so please give me your guidance. Of course, of course. Fellow Taoist Zhao has an important mission on his shoulders. The three of us will definitely cooperate with you to complete the task, he. Fourth Master he, I heard what you just said. Don't lie. This time a sweet voice suddenly rang out, and the rippling sound was unforgettable. Zhao Sheng turned his head and saw a fiery red figure walking forward. She was wearing a red shirt and a thin skirt, with a ribbon tied around her waist, which further highlighted her slender waist. The woman simply walked over with a smile. She was not very tall, but she was exquisitely slender. With a slight movement, the almost exaggerated curves under the thin spring shirt were truly breathtaking. He Yingwen, however, had no interest in watching. As he drew closer, he snorted coldly, I've always been honest and trustworthy. How could I possibly deceive anyone? The woman's dark hair was tied in a bun, but 2 strands fell to the side of her face, adding to her allure. Her eyes were bold, glancing at Zhao Sheng from head to toe. Then, with a deep bow, she said with a smile, I'm Fire Envoy Bao Yuer, honored to meet fellow Taoist Zhao. The Zhou family and I share a irreconcilable feud. I hope we can work together wholeheartedly to annihilate them. Though Bao Yuer's face was beaming, her words were filled with murderous intent. Zhao Sheng, sizing up the charming woman, said in a deep voice, the Zhou family has committed countless evil deeds and deserved divine punishment long ago. Fellow Taoist Bao, I deeply agree. Well, now that you've met, I'll announce your missions. Mo Shengxun suddenly interrupted their conversation, speaking in a serious tone. Zhao Sheng's expression settled, and he listened attentively. Bao Yuer and He Ying shuddered, then immediately calmed down and bowed their heads. Mo Shengxun pulled out a jade slip and addressed the four. This slip contains information on 67 individuals, covering every important member of the Zhou family. Your mission is to ascertain the movements of all those individuals and secretly monitor them. We must ensure that no one from the Zhou family escapes during the general offensive. He Ying felt deeply troubled and said politely, Master, it's not that I'm afraid of difficulty, but this mission is simply too incredible. With just the 4 of us, even if we were to split the spirit wine into 8 pieces, we wouldn't be able to monitor so many people. Mo Shengxun remained silent, but instead looked up at Zhao Sheng. Zhao Sheng nodded in understanding, then stepped forward, turning his gaze to He Ying and the other 2. With a confident expression on his face, he said, This isn't difficult. I've already made some preparations. At this point, Zhao Sheng informed the 3 of his earlier tampering with the spirit wine. Anyone who imbibed his spiritual wine would normally be completely unaware of the difference, but once his spiritual energy was mobilized, a special blood aura would emanate from him. This blood aura is virtually colorless and odorless, non-toxic, and profoundly beneficial to the physical body of a cultivator. This special blood aura is crafted from Zhao Sheng's own blood essence, using the method of blood essence refinement. This practice was common in the Guian sect, originally intended to accelerate the growth of qi and blood. However, Zhao Sheng used it for tracking purposes. To this end, he selected a species of vampire mosquito common in the Cheyenne territory and, after 10 years of painstaking work, fed generation after generation of them on his blood essence, ultimately breeding nearly 100 of them. These demonic mosquitoes were extremely sensitive to the scent of his blood essence, making them an ideal tracking aid. He Ying was speechless after hearing Zhao Sheng's explanation, and Bao Yu was secretly impressed by the painstaking efforts of this man to seek revenge. Thanks to fellow book friend Owl Old Monster for his 1,500 coin reward. Baimui expresses his gratitude. Chapter 142, Eating the Extinct Family and the Name of Righteousness. By the time Zhao Sheng returned to Hongayangzhou, 3 months had already passed. Zhou Hongyu, overjoyed at his friend's return, rushed over, eager to welcome Zhao Sheng home. Zhao Sheng couldn't refuse, so he obliged. Zhao Cheng's best chefs were all employed by the Zhou family, so the welcoming banquet was held directly at Zhao Sheng's residence. Beyond the delicacies, the welcoming banquet featured Zhao Sheng's brewed spirit wine. Halfway through the banquet, Zhao Sheng realized Zhou Hongyu wasn't just welcoming him, He was clearly harboring a hidden agenda. He was puzzled, but he kept his composure, drinking and chatting with his friend. By the time 3 rounds of wine and 5 courses had passed, Zhao Sheng was already looking tipsy. Under the influence of alcohol, he suddenly asked, "Brother Zhao, I want to ask you a sincere question. Among your group of disciples, who do you think is the most promising?" Zhao Sheng paused when he heard this, and a few cold flashes suddenly flashed in his eyes. Although Zhao Sheng seemed to be talking drunkenly, on the surface he was asking which disciple he was most optimistic about, but what was he really thinking? In fact, he was testing Zhao Sheng's intentions. What intentions? Of course, he was using his drunkenness to test who would be left with his relics after his death. Don't forget, Zhao Sheng's time is running out, and on the surface he is a childless foundation-building cultivator. Zhao Sheng's return trip surprised some people in the Zhou family. They originally thought that after Zhao Sheng's death, his inheritance would definitely be in the Zhou family's pocket. Now it is not necessarily the case. Maybe Zhao has left his wealth and inheritance in his hometown, giving it to relatives or a destined person. Zhao Sheng was a highly skilled second-level talisman master, his wealth far exceeding that of the average late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. If such a large inheritance fell into the hands of an outsider, certain members of the Zhou family would be furious. Therefore, upon Zhao Sheng's return, Zhao Zhongai rushed over, claiming to be hosting a welcoming banquet, but in reality, to sound him out. Looking at his drunken friend, Zhao Sheng put down his glass, paused, and said with a smile, "Since you've asked, I'll just chat casually. Of my 16 disciples, the one with the greatest talent and understanding is undoubtedly Zhou Qingwu." Upon hearing this, Zhao Zhongai's face lit up with joy. However, Zhao Sheng changed the subject, "But when it comes to diligent cultivation, Qingwu isn't as good as Zhou Qing. And when it comes to his reverent devotion to the art of talismans, Qingwu is far inferior to Zhou Yunmin." Zhao Zhongai, hearing this, asked anxiously, "Brother Zhao, don't you think highly of Qingwu's grandson?" "Not at all. Qingwu is your Zhou family's darling. Of course, I hold him in high esteem. But when it comes to inheriting the mantle, he's not the most suitable candidate." Zhao Sheng finished, raising his glass again and smiling. "Let's not discuss this. Let's drink." A gloomy look flashed across Zhao Zhongai's eyes, and he quickly raised his glass, shouting, "Yes, let's drink. I toast, Brother Zhao." Bang! The 2 white porcelain glasses gently clinked together, the spiritual wine swaying slightly, reflecting the emotions of both men at the moment. After the welcoming banquet, Zhao Sheng visited several important figures over the next few days. This was a courtesy, announcing his return. After several days of frequent socializing, Zhao Sheng finally found some free time. 7 days later, he appeared at a spirit wine shop in the West City Market in Zhaocheng. The shop, called Bailey Su, ostensibly sold spirit wine, was actually an intelligence outpost run by the Black Ice Platform. The Black Ice Platform was a secret service organization tasked with monitoring the interior of the Great Yuan dynasty. It was perfectly normal for them to have specialized intelligence outposts targeting the princes within the court. Zhao Sheng was certain there were far more such outposts in Zhaocheng. After entering the shop and identifying himself, Zhao Sheng was quickly led into its basement chamber, where he encountered the dying He Ying, known as the Fourth Master. "Fourth Master, where are the other 2? Zhao Sheng asked curiously. He Ying loved to take advantage of his seniority and was known as Fourth Master. Zhao Sheng, adapting to local customs, didn't want to dwell on such a trivial matter, so he followed suit and addressed him as Fourth Master. "Wu Daisy and Bayor have important matters to attend to," He Ying offered, making up a random excuse. Zhao Sheng nodded, not wanting to ask further questions. He had come here today to establish acquaintance and contact, and to report on the Zhou family's recent movements. Taking the J-Disc of intelligence from Zhao Sheng, He Ying casually flipped through it, seemingly unconcerned. Zhao Sheng wasn't surprised by his behavior. As the saying goes, sometimes the person who knows you best isn't necessarily you, but your enemy. 3 months ago, when he was first taken to the Black Ice Terrace's secret archives and saw the information on the Zhou family filling 20 large warehouses, Zhao Sheng realized that his little tricks wouldn't impress Mo Shengxuan. It was only because of his high cultivation level that Mo Shengxuan valued him. In other words, a casual cultivator in the late foundation establishment stage could be considered a powerful thug in the war to annihilate the Zhou family. Logically, it shouldn't be too difficult for the Mo family to annihilate the Zhou family. For all else, a nascent soul ancestor was more than enough to suppress any enemy. However, the rules of an immortal dynasty didn't work that way. As the rule makers, the Mo family could only maximize their benefits by abiding by them. If they trampled on them arbitrarily, the royal family itself would always suffer the most. Therefore, if the Mo family wanted to annihilate the Zhou family, they had to do so by arguing for the greater good and legitimate reasons. Otherwise, they would inevitably cause panic within the court and destabilize the dynasty. Zhao Sheng had already understood. Intelligence, while important, wasn't the most important thing. Timing was paramount. The Mo family was waiting for the Zhou family to make a mistake. It was like a spider setting its web, waiting for an insect to make a mistake and fall into its web. After reviewing the intelligence, He Ying nodded, casually put away the jade butterfly, and continued, "Brother Zhao, you've just joined the Black Ice platform and may not be familiar with the inside story. We've actually already planted many spies within the Zhou family. Some have been in the family for almost 100 years. And some have been lurking there for generations." At this point, He Ying tentatively asked, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" Zhao Sheng nodded. "Fourth Master, I understand exactly what you're saying." He Ying smiled with satisfaction and continued, "So our main mission isn't here, but in Boiling Spring Valley." Upon hearing the name Boiling Spring Valley, Zhao Sheng suddenly understood. So that's why. If the Zhou family wanted to cultivate the Golden Ring Spirit Earthworm, they would have chosen Boiling Spring Valley. This is because Boiling Spring Valley is the family's most core and secret location, where their ancestor cultivated in seclusion. Boiling Spring Valley is extremely well defended, constantly enshrouded by a third-level defensive formation and never open to the public. Not to mention outsiders, even the ordinary key refining members of the Zhou family are not qualified to set foot in, unless you have advanced to the Foundation Establishment realm or are favored by the ancestors. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143, Immortal Cultivation Version of 36 Strategies. After a moment's reflection, Zhao Sheng hesitated. "Fourth Master, infiltrating Boiling Spring Valley is difficult. Not difficult, but extremely difficult. Let's put it this way, in the past 500 years, only one spy from the Black Ice platform has entered Boiling Spring Valley, and only twice." He Ying lifted his floor-length robe and sat back in his seat, a look of resignation on his face. Zhao Sheng pondered, "Let's give it a try. We can't rush this, we have to wait for the right moment." Don't be impatient either. The right moment will come. If you knew how many plans and rehearsals the Black Ice platform has made to eliminate any threat to the royal family, you'd understand how terrifying an intelligence agency with over 2,000 years of history can be. Facing He Ying's smug expression, Zhao Sheng felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. After leaving the intelligence point, Zhao Sheng followed his previous persona, resuming his normal life and socializing. As for intelligence, he no longer deliberately sought it out, but rather took things as they came. He figured the intelligence he obtained wouldn't be of much concern to He Ying and the others. Moreover, Zhao Sheng knew that He Ying and the others had their own plans, though they were keeping them secret from him. From the very beginning, He Bente had treated him as nothing more than a thug and cannon fodder. Zhao Sheng paid no mind to this. Time flew by, like water. In the blink of an eye, the dry season in the Xianhuang territory had passed, and the rainy season had arrived again. One day, an imperial edict suddenly arrived from Yongjing, addressed to the Zhou family. Its contents quickly spread throughout Hongyangzhou. The emperor has decreed that the crown prince's consort, Zhou, virtuous and kind, and highly respected by all, be promoted to the rank of crown princess. A daughter of the Zhou family had become crown princess. This was a thrilling event for the Zhou family, thrilling not only the mortal family but also the immortal cultivators. Becoming a crown princess meant that the Zhou family was favored by the current crown prince and held a strong chance of becoming a future ancestral clan of the great Yuan dynasty. If she eventually becomes the empress, it means that the Zhou family's position in the great Yang dynasty will be as solid as a rock for at least 200 to 300 years. Not to mention the distant future, even now. The Zhou family's daughter's promotion to the crown princess can also bring substantial benefits to the Zhou family. As expected, everything went according to plan. The crown prince's sincerity soon arrived. The commander of Heshi prefecture was vacant, so Zhao Sheng, a general of the Zhou family, was specially transferred as the general guard in the border to guard Heshi prefecture. Heshi prefecture is located on the border of the Great Yuan dynasty. This place is a battleground for the Great Yuan and the Great Zhen dynasties. The reason for the battle is not because of the strategic location of Heshi prefecture, but because there is a large and medium-sized spirit stone mine in Heshi prefecture. The annual output of spirit stones is nearly 2 million, and it can stably produce high-grade spirit stones, and even occasionally dig up top-grade spirit stones. Top-grade spirit stones are treasures that even the Yuanying ancestors rarely find. If they can hide one, the face of the giant ancestors of the Zhou family will be twisted with joy. Therefore, upon receiving the imperial edict, the Zhou family wasted no time in mobilizing the Firewolf army. Following Zhao Sheng, who had reached the 9th level of foundation establishment, they traveled day and night to Heshi province to take up their new post. The Firewolf army, a key force of the Zhou family, was rigorously trained using the methods of major sects to cultivate immortal guardians. These immortal guardians, crafted from the legendary martial arts, resembled mortal armies, emphasizing the power of unity and collaboration. Training these Dao soldiers typically involved the use of martial arts formations, connecting the vital energy and spirit of all, achieving a state of rapport and unity. Forming a Taoist army was extremely demanding and difficult. Drawing on their bloodline, the Zhou family painstakingly cultivated a Firewolf army of 200 men through decades of day and night training. It could be said that once deployed, this Firewolf army could rival even Jinden true masters, surpassing their level. Ordinary fake Dan masters were no match for them. The Great Yang dynasty included more than just the 4 Jinden families of lion, tiger, owl, and wolf. Why did these 4 dominate? The key lies in the fact that each of the 4 great families maintains a core of Taoist soldiers similar to the Firewolf army. Therefore, the vast spirit stone mines on Black Sand Island are accessible only to the Mo family and the 4 great families. The Crown Prince offered goodwill, and the Zhou family reciprocated, unconsciously aligning themselves with the Crown Prince. Furthermore, leveraging the Crown Prince's influence, the Zhou family rapidly expanded their influence throughout the 88 states of Dayang, reaping significant benefits in just a year or two. It can be said that the Zhou family enjoyed a period of rapid success, experiencing unparalleled success, akin to the heroic spirit of heaven and earth. Zhao Sheng observed this flourishing situation with a cold eye. Although He Ying remained tight-lipped, not a single word leaked. Zhao Sheng's intuition told him that all this was the work of the Black Ice platform. The Firewolf army's presence in Black Sand Island was clearly a decoy. While the Zhou family's smooth expansion of influence might appear beneficial on the surface, it was also, in reality, a diversion of their own strength. This treacherous tactic was so covert and sinister that the Zhou family fell prey to it. As far as Zhao Sheng knew, the Zhou family was currently short-staffed, with half of the foundation establishment members forced to disperse to various provinces to look after the family businesses. Even more ordinary key refining members were dispatched. If Zhao Sheng hadn't repeatedly stated his limited time, and given his dedication to teaching the younger Zhou family members, he, the chief guest official, would have long been dispatched to another province. Even so, Zhao Sheng was given numerous assignments, such as regular inspections of Zhou City and occasional missions to eliminate enemies. As Zhao Sheng quietly bided his time passed. 2 years later, while the Zhou family's fortunes were improving, a dark cloud loomed. In the past 6 months, the Zhou family had suddenly noticed something was amiss. Businesses across the provinces had suddenly encountered varying degrees of trouble. Transport fleets were hijacked by demonic bandits, shops were seized by certain forces, and even numerous family members had disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, the Crown Prince was also facing serious trouble. The current emperor has recently rebuked the Crown Prince for his dissolute behavior and granted the second prince the title of prince. This clearly aims to pit the second prince against the Crown Prince. The emperor's mind is unpredictable, and the Crown Prince's position is precarious. In recent months, the Crown Princess has sent 3 letters home, repeatedly mentioning the Crown Prince's limited personnel and requesting that the family send more capable members to serve under him. Now that they've joined the Crown Prince's side, the Zhou family will naturally do their utmost to help him maintain the emperor's favor. Thus, 3 foundation establishment members were quickly dispatched to Yongjing. Zhao Sheng witnessed all of this. He had a vague feeling that the moment he'd been waiting for was approaching, But he hadn't yet fully grasped how the Mo family could earn the reputation of righteousness. Without righteousness, they couldn't legitimately defeat the traitorous Zhou family. As a millennial family, the Zhou family was no pushover. While they didn't fully understand the Mo family's schemes, they possessed unique intelligence sources. Combined with the recent unusual developments, the Zhou family seemed to sense an approaching danger and were showing signs of retreating. Furthermore, the day before yesterday, the Zhou family patriarch suddenly issued a decree, allowing outstanding juniors like Zhou Qingwu and Zhou Qingli to enter the Boiling Spring Valley. While this was nominally the patriarch's personal training, Zhao Sheng perceived it as a gesture of protection. Could it be that Zhou Zile has realized the Mo family is planning an attack on the Zhou family? Zhao Sheng wondered. Just as Zhao Sheng was secretly sharpening his weapons, awaiting the Zhou family's doom, He Ying contacted him unexpectedly. Arriving at the intelligence point, Zhao Sheng was surprised to find Mo Wuxiang, Bao Yuer, and He Ying all present. Huh? Why is there another bald man? Zhao Sheng turned to look in the corner of the secret room. There stood a majestic, bald figure draped in a red monk's robe. Chapter 144, Formless Incarnation. Zhao Sheng was even more surprised to see the bald monk there. You know, monks are not welcome in the Great Yang dynasty, because their sworn enemy, the Great Zhen dynasty, is a Buddhist dynasty. Over the years, countless people from the Great Yang dynasty have died at the hands of the Great Zhen people, and the two dynasties have long forged a mortal feud that is unbreakable. It's easy to imagine the hatred monks face in the Great Yang dynasty. Seeing Zhao Sheng's surprise, old man He chuckled and said, "Friend Zhao, this eminent monk is the water element of our 5 elements, the monk Wu Xiang, Amitabha." "Eh, the humble monk Wu Xiang, greet you, benefactor Zhao." The bald man clasped his hands together and saluted loudly, his voice like a clear spring, refreshing the heart. "I am Zhao Hicken, and I am honored." Zhao Sheng, secretly amazed, immediately returned the salute. Then, Zhao Sheng turned to old man He and asked, "Fourth master, why did you urgently summon me here today?" He Ying was the leader of the 5 elements and the most trusted by Mo Shengxuan, the envoy of the Black Ice platform, so the group followed his lead. He Ying said, "The water emissary is trying to infiltrate the Boiling Spring Valley. We need your help." Although puzzled, Zhao Sheng readily agreed, "Anything I can do to help, just ask." At this point, the formless monk spoke up, "I know that Mr. Zhao has a disciple named Zhou Qingli. Please coax him out as soon as possible." Zhao Sheng was stunned. The Zhou family's young master was entering the valley today, and coaxing him out at this time would be extremely difficult. So, he immediately asked, "Master, why do you do this?" Before the formless monk could speak, Bao Yuer beside him suddenly chuckled, "Why else? That baldy boy is about to unleash his formless incarnation technique again." Zhao Sheng paused in thought. Formless incarnation technique? He seemed to have read about it in some ancient text. It seemed to be a Hinayana Buddhist technique from the Dharma appearance idealist school. He Ying urged, "Fellow Taoist Zhao, this must be completed as soon as possible. Otherwise, if we delay something important, you'll be held responsible in the end." Zhao Sheng scoffed inwardly. What important matter? It's nothing more than exploring the Boiling Spring Valley. More likely, they're searching for the Dragon Ball. Even as he pondered this, Zhao Sheng said solemnly, "There's no time to lose. Zhao will get to it immediately. Donor Zhao, I'll go with you." As soon as he finished speaking, large drops of water suddenly gushed out of the Wuxiang monk's pores. Countless drops quickly coalesced, forming a curtain of water that enveloped the Wuxiang monk. Instantly, the Wuxiang monk's body became transparent, resembling a molten mass of water. Then, the water figure's features and body distorted, quickly transforming into the form of someone else. Huh? As the water faded, a living person appeared before them. Zhao Sheng's face paled slightly as he recognized this person as a servant from his own household. He was identical in height, appearance, and build to the man. Without hesitation, the formless monk shed his robes in front of everyone, donning a servant's garb. Then, he approached Zhao Sheng and said, "Master, let's go." Wow! Even the voice was identical. Seeing the respectful expression of the formless monk, Zhao Sheng's pupils shrank, and a look of fear crossed his face. This man is very dangerous. Leaving the intelligence point, Zhao Sheng and his companions quickly returned to the mansion. Since calling only Zhou Qingli at this moment would be too conspicuous, Zhao Sheng summoned all his disciples under the pretext of bestowing a talisman. Upon hearing that their master was about to bestow talismans, Zhou Qingwu and the others had no inkling of a conspiracy and excitedly rushed to Zhao Sheng's presence. There's no need to elaborate further. Pursuing confidentiality, Zhao Sheng summoned his disciples one by one into the talisman room. Zhou Qingwu and the others had received a second-level phantom escape talisman, but when Zhou Qingqing entered with excitement, he was greeted by a curtain of water. It was then that Zhao Sheng witnessed the true terror of the formless incarnation technique. A curtain of water swallowed Zhou Qingli whole. Then, ignoring his struggles, the curtain cracked, releasing countless tiny streams that forcibly penetrated his pores. Once the water had completely penetrated his body stiffened, his face ashen, and he looked as if he were dead. But soon, Zhou Qingli's complexion brightened, and his chest began to rise again. He struggled, then slowly climbed to his feet. The lingering look of shock on his face was quickly replaced by a look of reverence. Disciple Zhou Qingli, thank you, Master, for bestowing the talisman. Zhao Sheng, observing his unusually respectful disciple, suddenly felt uneasy. Zhou Qingli had left, carrying on an unknown mission. That afternoon, the younger generation of the Zhou family left Zhaocheng and entered the Boiling Spring Valley. Zhao Sheng was deeply concerned that the Wuxiang monk's disguise would be discovered by the Jindan's Henren Zhou. A few days passed, but his fears didn't materialize. Nothing unusual happened in the Boiling Spring Valley, indicating that the Wuxiang monk had succeeded. Another 2 months of waiting followed. Then, a sudden battle report not only caught Zhao Sheng's attention but also made the Zhou family extremely uneasy. 7 days ago, the Dezhan Buddhist army raided Hishazhao. The Firewolf army met the enemy head-on, suffered a minor defeat, and finally retreated to Lingxi Pass, where they were held outside the pass. This battle report not only foreshadowed the official start of the 32nd Lingxi War between the two dynasties, but also meant that the Firewolf army had been delayed. This result made Zhao Sheng secretly wonder if there was some kind of secret understanding between the two imperial families of Dayang and Azhun, otherwise all this would be too coincidental. Just 2 days later, He Ying quickly sent him a message. When Zhao Sheng arrived at the intelligence point and saw the 5 elements 3 envoys again, he saw that He Ying and the other two looked extremely serious, but within their seriousness was a hint of uncontrollable excitement. Seeing this, Zhao Sheng was startled and suddenly had a premonition. The moment he had been waiting for had arrived. Upon meeting, He Ying immediately announced, "Commands have been sent down. Operation Wolf Slaughter officially begins in 7 days." Zhao Sheng was overjoyed, his heart pounding with excitement. Finally, He Ying then continued, "We can ignore Zhao Cheng. Others will take over. Once the operation begins, we have only one goal, to enter Boiling Spring Valley and rescue the formless monk as soon as possible." He Ying turned to Zhao Sheng and asked, "How many bloodthirsty mosquitoes do you have left?" Zhao Sheng immediately replied, 12. He had already surrendered most of them at the Black Ice Terrace, leaving only this few. 2 per person, that's more than enough. Zhao Sheng immediately pulled out his spirit insect bag and poured out 12 fist-sized bloodthirsty mosquitoes, each pure black except for their blood-red eyes. He then distributed them to the others. After distributing the blood-sucking mosquitoes, Zhao Sheng looked at He Ying and asked with a little curiosity, "Fourth Master, wiping out a Zhou family is a major event that will shock the court and the country. If we can't have a legitimate reason, it will probably cause turmoil in the court and the country, and people will panic. Does the higher-ups have any countermeasures for this?" He Ying smiled mysteriously, patted him on the shoulder, and said meaningfully, "Brother, just wait and see. The court will never punish without teaching. The Zhou family is ambitious and will inevitably destroy themselves." When Zhao Sheng heard this, his thoughts turned 1,000 times in his mind, and he vaguely guessed what action the Mo family would take next. If his guess was true, he could only sigh, "It's cruel and vicious enough." Chapter 145 Blood Robe Edict. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. 3 days passed, Zhao Sheng secretly awaiting the arrival of a major event. Yet, Zhao Cheng remained peaceful as usual, with not a single unusual movement. But that evening, Zhou Zhongaiyu suddenly approached him, saying the patriarch had summoned him. Then, he hurriedly dragged him to the patriarch's residence. Zhao Sheng didn't ask what the matter was. Seeing his friend's tense expression, he doubted he would answer even if he did. A moment later, 2 streams of light drifted side by side into a magnificent mansion in the heart of Zhaocheng. The 2 quickly entered the Zhou residence's main hall. Upon entering, Zhao Sheng was startled to see that all 8 Foundation establishment members of the Zhou family, who hadn't left the house, had arrived. The atmosphere in the hall was solemn. Zhao Sheng said nothing, but followed Zhou Hongyu to the lower table, waiting silently. A moment later, Zhou Ying's, expressionless, emerged from the back hall, followed by a handsome, feminine man. Zhou Ying's took the main seat but ignored the feminine man. The man wasn't angry. He smiled and stood beside Zhou Ying's, neither too close nor too far. His posture and demeanor were perfectly natural, as if he were accustomed to serving someone for a long time. "Everyone, take a look." Zhou Ying's then took out a folded ball of bright golden brocade and handed it to the clan elder next to him. His tone was extremely serious, and his face was slightly stern. The man took it, unfolded it, and his expression changed drastically. Zhao Sheng glanced over and saw that the object looked like a robe, embroidered with large three-colored clouds. A lifelike, black dragon with distinct scales and armor flew through the clouds, soaring and flying, as if it were a living creature. Zhao Sheng was startled at first, then overjoyed. If he was not mistaken, this robe is clearly the Crown Prince's dragon robe, and now it's in the hands of the Zhou family. What does it mean? Zhao Sheng's initial guess was only 3/10, but now it has risen to 7/10. The clan elder took a look and, with a grim expression, passed it to the next person. The man took it and took a look. His expression changed drastically, becoming the same as that of the clan elders. This is impossible. The man, with white hair and a deep sense of age, lacked concentration, and his lips trembled with fear. "Second uncle, let me see." Another Zhou family foundation establishment cultivator snatched the robe, examined it once, and silently passed it to the next person. This happened again and again, and the atmosphere in the hall became extremely eerie, an invisible storm gathering, as if ready to erupt at any moment. The robe quickly passed to Zhao Sheng. He unfolded it, revealing a deep crimson, covered in lines of blood. Zhao Sheng glanced over it, and it was just as he had expected. This was the Crown Prince's handwritten blood letter, also known as the Blood Robe Edict. The Blood Robe Edict roughly stated that the evil concubine had committed adultery with a harem, plotted to murder the Holy Mother, and colluded with the second prince to secretly hold the emperor hostage, disrupt the government, and murder ministers. The Crown Prince, deeply persecuted and unable to endure it any longer, and unwilling to see the tragedy of the previous dynasty repeat itself, turned his sword upside down. Therefore, a secret edict, the Blood Robe, was written, summoning loyal officials and righteous men to rescue the emperor and restore order. The edict concluded by stating that upon completion, a generous reward would be offered, and those who achieved the highest merit would be granted territory and other lands. Zhao Sheng, rejoicing after reading it, also noted that the coup would be launched tomorrow at midnight. Calculating the time, it would take just over a day to reach Yongjing from Hongyiang's Hao. This prince is quite interesting, his timing is just right, Zhao Sheng thought to himself. Zhao Sheng stood up and handed the Blood Robe Edict back. Zhou Ying's clutched the robe as if it were a hot coal. The prince is about to launch his move. What is the Zhou family's stance? Let's discuss it now. As soon as he finished speaking, an elder in the clan immediately asked, "Ancestor, what are your opinions?" Zhao Sheng, seeing this, secretly praised himself. That person has hit the nail on the head. The opinions of the rest of the Zhou family were unimportant, the key was whether Zhou Zile would support it. This looked like a high-stakes gamble. Win, and it would pay off. Losing? The best outcome would be a significant loss for the Zhou family. As for the worst? Zhou Ying's ability to rally everyone represented, in a sense, the stance of Zhou Zile, the patriarch of the Zhou family. In fact, Zhao Sheng could already be certain, even without waiting until the very end. The Zhou family would undoubtedly participate in the Crown Prince's coup, but they would never fully support it. Just like putting all your eggs in one basket, the best response for the Zhou family was to split into two factions, one fully supporting the Crown Prince and the other completely unaware. A preemptive severance would ensure that even if they failed, the other would not be implicated. Zhao Sheng even harbored a more malicious suspicion, suspecting that the Zhou family might split off and actively join the second prince's forces. Informing on the situation would be the best way to surrender. Of course, the timing of the tip-off had to be precise, neither too late nor too early. As expected, Zhou Ying evaded the elder's inquiries, then repeated his previous words in a stern voice. A loud drum needs no heavy hammer. Upon seeing the patriarch's expression, everyone present instantly understood. Events unfolded just as Zhao Sheng had anticipated. The Zhou family quickly split into two factions, one supporting the crown prince, the other adamantly observing from the sidelines. The two sides engaged in a ferocious altercation. Zhao Sheng, a guest official, remained aloof, observing from the sidelines. He soon discovered the cunning of the effeminate man. Despite the Zhou family's rampage, his expression remained unmoved, as if he were an outsider. Yet, this man was clearly a trusted confidant of the crown prince. Suddenly, Zhao Sheng had a flash of insight. This man is not the crown prince's trusted confidant. He's clearly a witness, a pawn, a sharp blade aimed at the Zhou family's most trusted confidants. From the moment he saw the blood robe edict, Zhao Sheng realized that all this was a setup, a terrifying conspiracy designed to destroy the Zhou family. 3 days earlier, He Ying had announced that Operation Wolf Slaughter would officially begin in 7 days. The crown prince's impending coup, at this crucial juncture, coincidentally occurred. This was no coincidence at all, but a conspiracy. The crown prince's coup was bound to fail, and the Zhou family would inevitably be implicated. This would naturally make the Zhou family guilty of treason. For any other family, the crime of treason would be enough to implicate the entire clan. But for the Zhou family, this wasn't enough to warrant extermination. Zhao Sheng suspected that even greater crimes would be leveled against them. The Zhou family's fate-shaking meeting didn't last long. The head of the family, Zhou Yings, quickly made the final decision, ordering the 3 elders supporting the crown prince to lead 100 key refining clan members to Yongjing immediately. Zhao Sheng was also expected to accompany them. This didn't surprise him. As a guest official, you have to go wherever danger strikes. Even more so, you have to be the first to go when your life is at risk. Unfortunately, these people might never reach Yongjing. Zhao Sheng secretly glanced at the feminine man, a strange look flashing in his eyes. Time was running out, and there were also concerns about leaks. Zhao Sheng was left at the head of the family's residence awaiting departure. Just 2/4 of an hour later, the 3 foundation building elders each returned to the patriarch's residence with a group of close clansmen. A moment later, a 20-meter-long gray cloud boat suddenly rose into the sky from the center of Zhaocheng, passed through the defensive light shield, and sped toward Yongjing. A quarter of an hour later, the cloud boat flew away from Hongyangzhou and entered the Xianhuang Gobi Desert. The night was deep, the sky was sparse with stars, and the vision was dark. An hour later, the cloud boat was already 700 or 800 miles away from Hongyangzhou. Just as the cloud boat flew over a rocky beach, Zhao Sheng suddenly felt a fluctuation of spiritual consciousness, and then a large piece of information entered his mind. A stern look flashed in Zhao Sheng's eyes, and he looked up at the feminine man at the bow. Just then, the man turned around with a smile on his face and nodded slightly at him. "We've reached the rocky beach, let's go." Chapter 146. Is there a prince who has lived for 200 years? It was a dark and windy night, the relentless gale of the desolate realm diluting the thick stench of blood from the cloud boat. Black-robed men busied themselves washing away the bloodstains from the deck and cabin. Corpses, still grievously dead, were tossed from the boat onto the rocky shore. Scavengers, drawn to the scent, would soon devour them. At the bow of the cloud boat, Zhao Sheng, He Ying, Mo Shuang, Bao Yuer, and the feminine man gathered, all smiling. They had just fought an ambush, one they hadn't rehearsed, yet it had yielded a resounding victory. The Zhou family hadn't anticipated the presence of a traitor within their ranks, too in the late foundation establishment stage. Caught off guard, they suffered heavy casualties, with 2 of the 3 foundation establishment masters severely injured. Then, the 3 envoys of the 5 elements descended from the sky and swept the field in unison. After the mission was complete, Zhao Sheng learned from He Ying that the feminine man was actually a wood element user of the 5 elements. His name was Eunuch Y, a foundation establishment level eunuch and a trusted confidant of the crown prince. The aspiring crown prince would never have imagined, to his death, that his trusted eunuch was actually a spy for the Black Ice Terrace. Even Zhao Sheng, not to mention the crown prince, felt a chill run down his spine upon learning Eunuch Y's identity. He couldn't help but sigh, how terrifying is the Black Ice Terrace of Daong. Half an hour later, the cloud boat was cleaned inside and out, and the black-robed men changed into the clothes of the Zhou family. At this time, He Ying clasped his fists and said to the feminine man, "Eunuch Y, we say goodbye here. The old man wishes you a smooth trip. When you are on the rise in the future, don't forget us." Eunuch Y smiled and said, "Fourth master, you are being too polite. After all, I am also one of the 5 elements. We have been friends for hundreds of years, how can I forget it just like that? Bao Yu also smiled and said, Brother Wai, I wish you a bright future. Thank you, Sister Bao, for your good words. Time is very tight, and we will talk in detail about some things after we are done. Colleagues, I'll be leaving first. After a moment, the cloud boat rose into the sky again and sped towards Yongjing. As the cloud boat sailed away, He Ying's smile faded. He turned to Zhao Sheng, Bao Yu, and Mo Wuxiang, and said coldly, Eunuch Wei has gone on a mission to achieve merit, and we can't afford to be left behind. Let's go. With that, He Ying's robe suddenly bulged into a ball, and a vast expanse of gray light emanated from beneath it, lifting him off the ground. The gray light then enveloped him, transforming him into a gray haze and rapidly soaring towards Hongjiang Island. Bao Yu smiled sweetly, then suddenly transformed into a streak of fire, swiftly following. Mo Wuxiang didn't move. Zhao Sheng was about to move when he felt a gaze from within his helmet pierce his face, tinged with a faint, inexplicable emotion. With a sudden thought, Zhao Sheng sheathed his invisible sword, about to swing it, and instead released a cloud boat, 7 or 8 feet long. After boarding the cloud boat, Zhao Sheng suddenly turned and invited, Friend Mo, if you don't mind, how about I give you a ride? Mo Wuxiang paused, his voice as resolute as iron, before uttering a single word, okay. Meanwhile, the Zhou family, each with their own thoughts, anxiously awaited news from Yongjing. A day had passed. Calculating the time, it was clear the Crown Prince had definitely launched a coup. Yet, no news had come back from Yongjing. The group of personnel previously dispatched had vanished without a trace, with no further news. By this point, the Zhou family had a foreboding premonition. Of course, until then, they hadn't anticipated the Mo family's ambitions, aiming to wipe out the entire Zhou clan in one fell swoop. As a giant family with over a millennium under their belt, the Zhou family had numerous sources of information, and they quickly learned from other sources that a major disturbance had indeed occurred in Yongjing the previous night. By then, Yongjing had activated a massive barrier formation, sealing off the entire city, making it virtually impossible for any news to escape. However, scattered reports before the city was sealed off suggested the Crown Prince's forces were in trouble. While the imperial city had been captured, the cries of battle quickly faded after only half an hour, leaving a deathly silence. Sensing a sense of foreboding, the Zhou family members' expressions darkened. Consequently, conflict erupted within the Zhou family, and a long day passed in bitter quarrels, bitterness, and regret. Within a single day, news, worse than the last, arrived one after another. The first was the Crown Prince's failed coup in Zhuyi Palace. He was stripped of his title, imprisoned in the Imperial Clan Palace, and held captive until his death. Then came news that the Emperor had been assassinated during the Zhuyi Palace coup, and his fate remains unknown. While this seemed like good news for the Zhou family, a shocking piece of news suddenly arrived, sending shudders through the entire clan. One of the assassins is Zhou Honglu, a member of the Zhou family's foundation establishment clan. His identity is undeniable. Zhou Ying's had no doubt about the authenticity of this news, as it was relayed by a family member who had ventured deep into the imperial city and risked his own life. In the meeting hall of Zhou Mansion, the atmosphere of anxiety was almost boiling. The emotion of regret and annoyance was like kerosene, and a little spark could set the hall on fire. Impossible. Zhonglu would never be so stupid. There must be something fishy about this. Seventh Master, you are right. There is something fishy about this. The prince can't be stupid enough to let Zhonglu participate in the assassination. Zhonglu is not qualified for such a top-secret matter. Humph. Is this news fake? Zhou Ying said solemnly. It can't be fake. This was spread by the family's assassins. Master, what should we do now? Why hasn't the ancestor come out of seclusion yet? Master, does the ancestor know about this? Looking at the panicked and anxious elders, Zhou Ying felt a surge of anger in his heart. What a bunch of old losers. They are the best at hindering others at ordinary times, but when it comes to serious matters, they are completely clueless. But now wasn't the time to dwell on these matters. Zhou Ying forced himself to suppress his anger and said in a deep voice, the ancestor already knows of this matter and has issued a decree. Upon hearing the ancestor's decree, the hall immediately fell silent, everyone looking expectantly at the head of the family. Zhou Ying didn't hold back, directly conveying the ancestor's intentions. It could be summed up in 16 words: sacrifice pawns to save the chariot, cut flesh and admit defeat, Shrink your forces, and the 4 clans will resist Mo. The first 3 were easy to deal with, but the 4 great clans of Lion, Tiger, Owl, and Wolf were often involved in foul conflicts, which forced the Zhou family to humbly plead with the other 3 for help, begging, "Brother, please lend a hand." Seeing that the Zhou family is in trouble, the 3 families may not be willing to help, but most of them will kick them when they are down. Seeing the embarrassed looks of the elders, Zhou Yings was furious and said, "Stupid. It's already a time, and you are still thinking about your face. If the Zhou family falls, will you have a good end? Impossible. Our Zhou family is at least, idiot. The knife is on your neck, and you still don't understand. You are so old, but you are really living in a dog's stomach." After scolding a bunch of fools, Zhou Yings threatened, "The ancestor has issued an order, are you going to disobey it?" After these words came out, everyone was speechless. Chapter 147 Saint Emperor Modeo. We wouldn't dare. We absolutely wouldn't dare. We didn't understand just now, but now we realize our ancestors' good intentions. That's right. The 4 great families are closely connected. If the Zhou family declines, the other 3 won't fare much better. The Mo family has always been the dominant family, and if the balance they've managed to maintain is disrupted, the other 3 families will suffer sooner or later. Zhou Ying's anger subsided slightly when he saw that there were still some sensible people among the elders. One thing he hadn't told the others was that the ancestor had already begun planning the family's escape plan. Although the situation didn't seem that dire right now, as the saying goes, those who plan well thrive, it's important to always prepare for the worst. As the Zhou family members were assigning their tasks, a red light suddenly pierced the roof and shot into Zhou Ying's hand, transforming into a thumb-sized jade bead. Zhou Ying's spiritual sense penetrated it, his face changed drastically, and he cried out, "Oh no! Something terrible is happening." That day, a shocking event spread throughout Zhou City in just one day. The Crown Prince of Daong staged a coup at Ziwei Palace, but after his failure, he was imprisoned in the Imperial Clan Palace. Meanwhile, shocking news and rumors were rife. All of the Crown Prince's ministers and confidants were imprisoned, countless palace guards and soldiers were killed or wounded, and Yongjing was a river of blood that night. Many immortal cultivation families, implicated by the Crown Prince, had their properties raided overnight. The emperor has been assassinated, and his life or death is uncertain. Rumor has it that upon being captured, the Crown Prince screamed, "How can there be a Crown Prince who only lasts 200 years? Then he raved, "A 1,000-year-old Saint Emperor remains alone, and the rule of the emperor will last for 10,000 years." Among the many rumors circulating in Yongjing, one horrified the Zhou family the most, as if they had fallen into an inescapable trap. The Zhou family harbored evil intentions, first instigating the Crown Prince, then assassinating the king. This is treason, unforgivable. Faced with a deluge of rumors and information, the people of Zhao Sheng were in a state of panic. Everyone knew the Crown Princess was a daughter of the Zhou family. The Crown Prince had now committed such a heinous act, and the Zhou family would inevitably be implicated. However, with the emperor's fate uncertain, the Zhou family still unaware of the grave sin they had inflicted. The day after the Crown Prince's defeat, the countdown to Operation Wolf Slaughter was 2 days away. At dawn, another bolt from the blue struck the Zhou family, leaving them utterly charred and scorched. The emperor, gravely wounded, has passed away last night. The second prince has succeeded him and ascended the throne. Upon hearing this news, Zhou Ying was so enraged that a mouthful of blood spurted 2 meters into the air. The blame for the emperor's assassination, resulting from the Zhou family's death, was now firmly pinned on his family, undeniable. Hurry, seek assistance from the 3 great families. No matter the cost, we must have them help our family through this crisis. Go. It will be too late, Zhou Ying ordered furiously, not even bothering to wipe the blood from his wounds. The situation was so dire that it was too late to send anyone. The Zhou family had no choice but to send out multiple Wanli Yixin talismans to the other 3 families, in which they made numerous promises and offered countless benefits. Less than 2 hours later, the Crazy Tiger Wu family and the Owl Eagle Yan family both sent back letters, promising to provide all possible assistance. Zhou Ying felt a little relieved upon seeing this. However, he waited and waited, but received no reply from the Sleeping Lion Hua family. This made his heart sink to the bottom. The Sleeping Lion Hua family was the leader of the various clans in Daong, second only to the Royal Mo family in strength, and backed by the 6 Desires Demon sect, a major demonic sect. Only with the Hua family stepping forward and leading the other clans could they challenge the royal family. Now the Hua family's attitude was ambiguous. For the Zhou family, which was in urgent need of reinforcements, this was extremely bad news. As dusk fell, Zhou Ying's was overcome with anger, muttering to himself, "No. This must be reported to the ancestor immediately." Unable to suppress his restless anxiety, he hurriedly wrote a talisman and sent it to Boiling Spring Valley. However, Zhou Ying's had no idea that while he was anxiously awaiting a reply from the Hua family, someone from the Hua family had already arrived in Hongyang Island, a highly influential figure. Above Boiling Spring Valley, high above the clouds, two giants Henren soared through the air, ignoring the biting gale, facing each other a mile apart. "Old Zhou, disaster is imminent. What's the point of hiding it? Hand over the Dragon Ball, and my Hua family will surely help your Zhou family through this." The speaker was tall and imposing, with thick eyebrows raised, eyes like bells, and the corners of his mouth drawn back, a look of natural rage. Even more terrifying was the golden flames burning above his head. The blazing flames spread out, looking from afar like a ball of dancing golden lion hair. This man's name was Hua Zinayan, one of the three great Jiandan ancestors of the Hua family, a fierce warrior in the late Jiandan stage. Zhou Zile, puzzled, asked, "Brother Hua, what do you mean by that? Where did I get the Dragon Ball?" The Zhou ancestor was now over 700 years old, his body frail and emaciated. His loose red robe draped him like a monkey in a sack, a truly comical sight. Yet, his features were youthful, his skin rosy and fair, as tender as a baby's. Hua Zinayan smiled broadly, "Haha. Come and see this." With that, a true shadow ball flew from his hand, quickly landing in Zhou Zile's grasp. His spiritual sense penetrated the true shadow ball, and Zhou Zile's heart tightened. Within it was a vivid image of Zhou Hongyu picking up the Dragon Ball. After watching, Zhou Zile laughed heartily. "You can't really believe it, can you? You know, images can sometimes be faked." Hua Zinayan sneered, "I didn't believe it at first, but seeing how much effort the Mo family is going to deal with your Zhou family, I can't help but believe it." With this, the golden flames above Hua Zinayan's head instantly expanded 100-fold, forming a vast sea of fire. In the depths of the sea of fire, a 3-foot-tall, 6-armed, 3-headed, wrathful-eyed image of a Ming Wang appeared faintly. "Stop the bullshit. Hand over the Dragon Ball, and I'll spare your life." Zhou Zile, startled, shouted, "Brother Hua. Calm down. If you start this, we'll both be hurt. In the end, someone else will take advantage." As he spoke, Zhou Zile flicked his right hand, and a crimson flame as thick as a child's arm instantly shot out from his palm, 100 feet away, striking an ordinary cloud. Suddenly, the cloud exploded into a vast expanse of crimson flames, and within the flames, a human figure rapidly emerged. In a flash, a dwarf-faced elder, clad in a dragon robe and crowned with 12 tassels, exuding a domineering aura, appeared. With a wave of his hand, he pushed aside the crimson flames and emerged from the blaze, pausing only when he reached the two giant and true immortals. Upon seeing the newcomer, Hua Zinayan's face darkened, and he exclaimed in shock, "Mo Wendao. Aren't you dead?" Rumor has it that the Saint Emperor Mo Wendao, rumored to have recently passed away from his injuries, was not only alive but actually here. This astonished Hua Zinayan, and even more so, Zhou Zile. Zhou Zile wasn't shocked by Mo Wendao's fake death, but rather by the man's immense and powerful aura. Mo Wendao's cultivation had previously been limited to the foundation establishment stage, yet this man, now appearing, possessed a formidable aura comparable to theirs. Zhou Zile even sensed an even more powerful aura hidden within Mo Wendao, reminiscent of the power of the nascent soul. Chapter 148, Zhuan Ming arrives, ignites the fire of war. Facing this Mo Wendao, Zhou Zile instantly felt an overwhelming sense of danger. Not good, a thought flashed through his mind, and his expression changed. Without paying attention to anything else, Zhou Zile's right hand, hidden within his sleeve, suddenly contained a psychic J token. Instantly, a divine consciousness channeled into the token. Simultaneously, Zhou Ying's, in Zhao Sheng, noticed a flicker of light from the jade token at his waist. His expression changed drastically, and his divine consciousness instantly penetrated the token, instantly sending a message flooding into his mind. After reading the message, Zhou Ying's felt a chill run down his spine. He was utterly horrified, and, disregarding his patriarchal demeanor, he shouted to the elders, "Quickly activate the defensive formation. Enemies are approaching." Josele felt a sense of relief after sending the message. However, he failed to notice that Mo Wendao, standing across from him, had secretly done the same. Boom! A massive cloud of fire suddenly erupted beneath Josele's feet, expanding into a blazing inferno that enveloped him and illuminated the surrounding void for 100 miles. Elsewhere, Huazinayan wielded a gilded, six-eyed purple gold hammer. The 6 vertical pupils on the hammer's head blinked, emitting rays of searing light that threatened to melt through the surrounding void. "Brother Hua," Josele called out, quickly moving closer to Huazinayan. Seeing this, Huazinayan raised his magical purple gold hammer and struck it lightly. Dozens of molten golden rays erupted from the hammer's head. These rays formed a web of light, intercepting Josele. It was not until then that Huazinayan's voice rang out in the air. "Wait!" Josele saw this and said in surprise, "Brother Hua, can't you see that all this is a conspiracy of the Mo family?" At this time, Mo Wendao suddenly sneered. "What a joke. If I wanted to deal with your Zhou family, I would have done it long ago. Why wait until today, if it weren't for your Zhou family repeatedly bewitching the prince, causing him to be possessed by evil spirits and actually do such a treasonous thing? Why would I end up like this?" After Mo Wendao finished speaking, a green air surged on his face, and a gloomy and terrifying aura emanated from him, which made Huazhou and the others look at him sideways. Josele sneered, "You're all old foxes who've lived for centuries, so why are you feigning innocence with me? Who doesn't know what your Mo family is thinking? Misfortunes sent by heaven can be forgiven, but those brought upon oneself cannot. Treason is an unforgivable crime, and all this is your Zhou family's fault." Mo Wendao had barely finished speaking when Huazinayan barked impatiently, "I don't care if you're Mo Wendao or not, or if you're human or ghost. If you dare to covet the dragon pearl, I'll beat you to death." Josele's face was bitter, and he was about to speak about the dragon pearl's destruction. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked north, a look of immense shock and anger on his face. At that moment, a huge fire suddenly erupted in Zhao Sheng, 100 miles away, illuminating the night sky. Damn it! Josele was filled with shock and anger, realizing that he wasn't the only one stalling for time. Mo Wendao had the same idea. As a result, his Zhou family had been a step behind, allowing the Mo family to take the initiative. "I want your life." Josele was so angry that he forgot his fear of Mo Wendao and also forgot about Huazinayan, who was eyeing him covetously. In an instant, a boundless sea of fire was set off. The scorching flames were like the sky falling down, rushing towards Mo Wendao like a tsunami. In an instant, the surrounding night was ignited, and patches of white clouds were dyed red. Night fell, and the sky was full of stars. In a cave 30 miles north of the boiling spring valley, Zhao Sheng, He Ying, and Bao Yu all closed their eyes and adjusted their breathing, waiting for the wolf-killing operation to begin. The night wind poured in from the cave entrance, and the quiet wind swept up the dust on the ground, bringing a hint of coolness. At this moment, a stream of light with a long tail flame instantly shot in from outside the cave. The stream of light illuminated the dark environment and finally disappeared into He Ying's forehead. He Ying suddenly opened his eyes, grinned, and stood up from the ground. Facing the inquiring glances from Zhao Sheng and the others, old man he smiled and said, "The Zuanming guards have arrived. The wolf-killing operation has been brought forward, haha, these guys are here so quickly." A flicker of excitement flashed in Bao Yu's eyes. Zhao Sheng, however, was startled. Having been in Daong for so many years, he had long heard of the Zuanming Guard's formidable reputation. Similar to the Zhou family's Firewolf army, the Zuanming Guards were not only imperial guards but also a highly elite corps of Dao soldiers. Although both were Dao soldiers, the Zuanming Guards were infinitely more powerful than the Firewolf army. The minimum cultivation level for the guards was key refining level 6, and the leaders were at least foundation establishment cultivators, with a chief Zuanming Guard leader even reaching the golden core level. Furthermore, the Zuanming Guards numbered a full 800. To destroy the Zhou family, the Mo family even sent in the Zuanming Guards, a rather overkill. Considering the Zhou family's strength had already been reduced by at least half, the Crown Prince's coup alone cost the Zhou family 6 foundation establishment cultivators and over 100 key refining cultivators. Furthermore, the Zhou family's significant expansion over the past 2 years has forced them to dispatch numerous foundation establishment cultivators to monitor various locations. Now, the situation has taken a turn for the worse, and they are far away. Not only are they unable to return in time, but they are also being surrounded and killed one by the Mo family cultivators. coupled with the fact that one side had planned ahead, while the other reacted hastily, barring a miracle, the Zhou family's demise is inevitable. Zhao Sheng, following Yi Ying, darted out of the cave. Standing at the cave entrance, he gazed north, only to see the night sky 100 miles away, illuminated by towering flames, a blood-red hue. At the same time, faint cries of killing drifted to Zhao Sheng's ears on the wind. Bao Yuer's face darkened, and she couldn't help but curse, "Damn it! Those Zuanming guards are such bastards. They've never changed their ways. Even if they wanted to steal the credit, they wouldn't do it this way. They simply don't take us, the Black Ice Platform, seriously." Yi Ying sneered. "We, the Black Ice Platform, do the dirty work. The Zuanming Guard's chief is His Majesty's elder, and he's at odds with the envoy. It's only natural they wouldn't take us seriously." Even as he spoke, Zhao Sheng saw a fierce glint in Yi Ying's eyes. Bao Yuer asked, "Fourth Master, what should we do now?" Gazing at the flames above Zhao Sheng, Yi Ying waved his hand decisively, saying, "Let the Zuanming Guards take care of Zhao Sheng. We'll go to Boiling Spring Valley." But Bao Yuer was deeply resigned. Yi Ying explained, "Don't worry, we won't suffer any loss. Don't forget Washuang is hiding in Zhao Sheng. He's of royal descent, a close relative of the current emperor." As he finished speaking, his face changed, and he suddenly looked up at the sky. A little later, Zhao Sheng and Bao Yuer also suddenly looked up, gazing towards Boiling Spring Valley. At that moment, amidst the deep, star-filled night, the sky above Boiling Spring Valley suddenly ignited. The night sky ignited, and suddenly, several loud rumbles like muffled thunder echoed from the sky above Boiling Spring Valley. From afar, the night fire suddenly extinguished, replaced by a mass of cold white mist. Reflected by the surrounding firelight, the mist shone with streaks of cold silver light, resembling an iceberg towering against the night sky. Chapter 149, Aftermath of the War. "Hurry!" Yi Ying's face darkened. With a flick of his long sleeves, he was enveloped in a vast expanse of gray light, swept up by streams of air as he soared towards the Boiling Springs Valley. Seeing this, Zhao Sheng transformed into a sword rainbow and followed closely behind. Bao Yuer, also stepping on a pink handkerchief, lifted off the ground and soared into the air in pursuit. 30 miles passed in a flash. Just as the three were about to reach the edge of the Boiling Springs Valley, Yi Ying's shrill roar suddenly rang out, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" Suddenly, Zhao Sheng felt a chill descend upon his head, a chill that penetrated his bones, making his scalp numb. Danger! Incomparable danger! Zhao Sheng violently spat out a mouthful of his essence and blood, which instantly transformed into bloody mist that enveloped him. The next moment, he suddenly transformed into a streak of bloody light and fled towards the horizon at incredible speed. In a split second, he had fled 10 miles. As the bloody light dissipated, Zhao Sheng stumbled a step before regaining his footing. His face pale, he gazed towards the Boiling Springs Valley. 10 miles away, the Boiling Spring Valley was now a vast expanse of white. The once swirling clouds and mist had vanished, their vapors condensing into shards of ice. The boiling springs within the valley were also frozen, forming a series of icy bubbles and ponds of various shapes. Icicles and cones of varying thicknesses spread across the valley floor, densely packed together like a forest of ice crystals. The astonishing sight made Zhao Sheng hold his breath, his lips dry. Buzz! At that moment, a wave of tangible divine thought descended from the sky, sweeping across the surroundings. The air felt as if washed clean by water, devoid of even a trace of smoke or dust. All floating particles were suppressed by the intangible yet dense force of his mind. Zhao Sheng was horrified. He had never witnessed such a powerful divine thought before. It was only possessed by powerful cultivators at or above the Jinden stage. In a matter of seconds, a figure appeared out of nowhere, bringing a bone-chilling chill. The temperature plummeted, and the already dim surroundings darkened even further. Countless ice particles rustled through the air, filling the air with a chilling atmosphere that felt like descending into a ghostly prison. The sweat that had just formed on Zhao Sheng's forehead froze to a thin layer of ice. He glanced up and saw the newcomer dressed in a 5-clawed black dragon robe and a 5-colored crown. 12 jeweled orbs emanated a faint divine light, each containing a powerful magical power. Zhao Sheng's heart trembled, realizing instantly that he had seen something he shouldn't have, and he quickly lowered his head. Mo Wendiao hadn't noticed the ants beneath his feet. He surveyed the world, the cold light in his pupils flowing slowly through his eye sockets like a surging iceberg. As his thoughts shifted, the ground beneath his feet cracked like a spider web. Ice cones sprouted from the cracks, and vast expanses of silvery frost spread rapidly in all directions. Wherever it passed, the original landscape was covered in a thick layer of frost, and the few plants that had managed to grow there were frozen into ice sculptures. HMPH, you can't escape, Moendeo whispered, and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Zhao Sheng felt relieved and hurriedly fled. Later, Zhao Sheng returned to Boiling Spring Valley and saw Old Man He emerge from the ground. He was now covered in frost and shivering with cold. Zhao Sheng was eager to know who had pulled off such a grand undertaking and why an emperor was here. Of course, he didn't ask too directly. He simply asked in a roundabout way, asking which powerful figure had pulled off such a grand undertaking. He Ying shook his head hesitantly. I don't know either. But something this grand could only have been accomplished with a precious treasure or a nascent soul. Zhao Sheng's heart skipped a beat. The Mo family only has one nascent soul ancestor. Could that ancestor have taken action? That was too much of a compliment to the Zhou family. The two waited for a moment, but Bao Yu still didn't show up. He Ying's expression darkened. Zhao Sheng tentatively asked, why not wait a little longer? He Ying waved his hand and decisively said, no, the mission is more important. Go and meet the Wuxiang monk first. Bao Yu won't die so easily, something must have delayed him. With that, He Ying rushed into Boiling Spring Valley and headed for the cave in the southwest. Zhao Sheng shook his head and followed. Boiling Spring Valley had been run by the Zhou family for millennia, and countless tunnels had long been excavated beneath the ground. These tunnels connected layers of underground structures, stone chambers, palaces, warehouses, storage vaults, and so on, resembling a vast underground city. However, this city was extremely deserted. Zhao Sheng and He Ying searched 3 floors in a row, only to be surprised to find every building completely empty, not even a trace of human life. It was as if the Zhou family had been prepared. As they delved deeper into the ground, Zhao Sheng noticed the temperature rising, and a faint smell of sulfur began to permeate the air. After a while, they had penetrated nearly 100 feet underground. The surrounding man-made structures gradually became scarcer, and the surrounding rough earth and rock became more numerous. Walking through a recently opened passage, Zhao Sheng suddenly heard a faint scream. Ah! He Ying's face suddenly changed. The scream was familiar, coming from the water-moving formless monk. The voice was so sharp and shrill that even the thick layer of earth and rock couldn't completely muffle it. Not good. Before they could finish their words, there was a sudden and violent tremor beneath their feet. Countless cracks appeared in the surrounding stone walls. Then, a low, thunderous roar swept past their feet, like a raging river. The temperature was rapidly rising. Zhao Sheng frowned and listened intently, realizing that beneath his feet were countless explosions strung together, almost seamlessly, transforming into waves like the roar of a mighty river. A closer look revealed the surging shock waves, each one stronger than the last, wreaking havoc on the underground passages. Within 2 or 3 breaths, Zhao Sheng felt the ground beneath him soften and crack, while countless underground passages collapsed to the sides. He knew what had just happened without anyone reminding him. A fierce battle was underway between giant and true immortals, and it wasn't just a test, but a life-or-death struggle. The Wuxiang monk must have been caught in the crossfire, leading to his unexplained death. Zhao Sheng was utterly shocked. How did they get underground? And so close? The immense pressure of the giant and true immortals' clash was an unfathomable weight, not an exaggeration. Furthermore, their complex and intricate clash of divine thoughts was woven into the mix. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth within a radius of 10 miles became tangible, creating a strangling, unstoppable, and irresistible force. The situation suddenly deteriorated. At this point, Old Man He's words became succinct and pointed. Retreat 5 miles. He Ying, a cultivator of the earth element, had the advantage of terrain, allowing him to better gauge the impact of the clash between the 2 giant and true immortals. However, Zhao Sheng muttered as he fled, 5 miles? That's probably not enough. It's better to run as fast as possible, but Zhao Sheng soon realized that he was far less experienced in dealing with true immortal battles than Old Man He. Chapter 150 Detonating the Volcano. As Zhao Sheng fled, he controlled his aura, his figure swiftly leaving a trail of afterimages, like a ghost. Old Man He, however, remained motionless, his speed no less impressive than Zhao Sheng's. The earth beneath his feet rippled like waves, surging around him as he moved swiftly. As the two men escaped the tunnel entrance, a resounding crash erupted behind them, and the entire tunnel collapsed. Cracks appeared along the walls, like countless rapidly growing vines, chasing the two men. Then, another earth-shaking tremor erupted. The underground city, unable to withstand the aftermath of the battle between the real beings, began to crumble piece by piece. For a moment, the tunnel's underground palace was filled with hurling rocks, and a haze of dust filled the air. Amidst the turbulent tide of the real beings' clash, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged like boiling water. Zhao Sheng's eyes twitched slightly. Golden core battles were a rare occurrence in any realm. He had witnessed them this time, unsure whether it was luck or misfortune. The two fled back to the upper underground palace, far from the center of the battle and largely unaffected by the aftermath. The surrounding buildings were largely intact. Old Man He suddenly stopped, and Zhao Sheng calculated in his mind, exactly 5 miles. He sensed the surrounding temperature and felt a significant drop in temperature. The rumbling noises from underground had become much fainter. Zhao Sheng looked back at Old Man He, his brow furrowed. Wait a moment. With that, Old Man He dropped to the ground, his ear to the ground, as if sensing something. Zhao Sheng gradually grasped a clue, and his expression changed. As a foundation establishment cultivator specializing in water energy, he was most sensitive to water energy. He could clearly sense the increasing activity of the surrounding water energy. Underneath the boiling spring valley lay a volcanic region, a natural home for fire energy. Yet, the surrounding water energy was surprisingly more active than the fire energy. Even more terrifying, its concentration was rapidly increasing, rising by 1/3 in just a few moments. This was no joke. It was clear that a powerful being had stirred the heavens and earth, causing the water spirit energy from an unknown number of miles around to converge upon the boiling spring valley. Such a move, apart from anything else, simply altering the home environment, left Zhao Sheng utterly stunned. Could such a massive act truly be the work of a Jinden's Henren? Just as Zhao Sheng was utterly stunned, He Ying suddenly leaped from the ground, retreating cautiously to his side. Gazing at the dark tunnel ahead, he coldly shouted, "Who's there?" Zhao Sheng was startled by these words. He unleashed his full spiritual sense, scanning the area 3 times, but detected nothing unusual. "Fourth Master, where are the enemies?" He Ying didn't answer, but instead stomped his right foot on the ground. A 2-foot-high wave of earth rose from the ground, rapidly rushing deeper into the tunnel. At that moment, a dazzling red light shone through the darkness, and the surrounding temperature suddenly rose sharply, a wave of heat overwhelming him. Zhao Sheng narrowed his eyes and saw a twisting, fiery figure within the red light, hurtling towards him. He Ying reacted quickly. With a wave of his sleeve, a burst of yellow light shot straight into the earth. The tunnel shook violently, and the underground earth and rock suddenly bulged out, forming a wall that connected left, right, top, and bottom, isolating Yan Ying behind him. But then, a blazing white claw, flowing with magma, pierced the earthen wall. Twisted flames erupted several feet away, and the heat wave struck Zhao Sheng's face, nearly scorching his clothes. Zhao Sheng remained motionless, coldly saying, "It's the magma demon puppet, stupid." "Kill!" The demon puppet growled through the earthen wall, its voice hoarse and unhuman, difficult to discern. After all, it was a puppet composed of magma and a demon's soul, and speech was indeed difficult. However, this was enough to open Zhao Sheng's eyes. The Zhou family's demon flame divine control technique lived up to its reputation. It allowed the demon's soul to control inanimate objects, yet still retain its spiritual power. Its power was astonishing. At this moment, the magma demon claw that had penetrated the earthen wall twitched twice, as if withdrawing its hand. At that moment, He Ying let out a strange laugh, and a burst of pure spiritual energy instantly flooded through him, instantly reducing the earthen wall to ash and shredding the lava demon claw along with it. The earthen wall, along with a section of the corridor, crumbled. The heat wave from the opposite side rushed forward again, but was suddenly choked by the swirling dust and smoke. Behind him, He Sidai silently rushed forward, his spiritual energy surging. Sand and stone gathered into a fist, and with one blow, he knocked the lava demon back. The scorching lava splattered and slammed onto the surrounding stone walls with a hissing sound. "Cut!" Zhao Sheng roared, and the invisible sword moved as fast as if it teleported. In a flash, it struck Yan Ying's head, severing it in two. The cyan demon soul hidden in the head screamed miserably, and a small part of its soul was chopped into smoke. Seeing this, He Ying poured his spiritual power into Yan Ying's body. As the alien's spiritual energy entered his body, the magma covering his body rapidly cooled and dimmed, then shattered into countless scorching stones. Although the magma demon puppet was primarily composed of a second-level demon soul, it was ultimately just a puppet, its combat power at most at the Foundation Establishment level. Facing the combined attack of two late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators, it was completely vulnerable. At this moment, Zhao Sheng, as if aware of his own defeat, shattered the demon puppet and remained motionless. He Ying turned to Zhao Sheng and asked, "Fellow Taoist Zhao, what do you think?" Zhao Sheng shook his head. "This puppet is remotely controlled using secret techniques. The real person might be dozens of miles away." He Ying nodded gently. "The Zhou family does have a bit." He lost his words when he let out a loud as a powerful force descended from the ground, piercing through the layers of earth and crashing down like a raging wave. Instantly, the temperature around him soared at an astonishing rate. The air grew incredibly hot, as if a spark threatened to explode at any moment. Boom! Amidst a violent rumble, a blast of hot air suddenly blew in from the depths, followed by a crashing sound like a flood, rapidly approaching. A red light shone in the darkness, and in an instant, a torrent of magma surged forth. "Let's go!" Zhao Sheng acted decisively, and in a flash, he fled into the distance. He Ying did the same. They escaped just in time. The area was engulfed by the surging lava. Furthermore, the roaring lava continued to surge to the surface at an unstoppable speed. The boiling Spring Valley's underground volcano had finally erupted, thanks to the hand of a giant Tenrun. Elsewhere, Zhao Sheng raced along the corridors, but after passing several, he abruptly stopped. The corridor ahead had collapsed, completely blocked by rubble. He looked back, but old man he was nowhere to be seen. Zhao Sheng frowned slightly, his expression grave as he heard the faint roar behind him. There was no way forward, and pursuers were behind. Facing a desperate situation, Zhao Sheng's mind raced, and an idea suddenly struck him. Boom! With a resounding explosion, smoke, dust, and debris flew. The corridor behind Zhao Sheng collapsed in sections under the bombardment of numerous talismans. Just as one would establish a buffer zone during a fire, Zhao Sheng also proactively created a barrier to the lava flow. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.